the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, The Devil's Shock. Hearing Muningsu's uncertain tone, Munigyo became even more worried. Before, she might have thought that it was impossible for her to be with Tangmao, but based on the current situation, if Tangmao could go all the way, then her family would not have to raise any objections, and Munigyo might even give him up for free. The feelings that were originally buried in her heart suddenly burst out. That is, Zao Manan and Muningsu were both staring at the center of the thunder area at this time. Otherwise they would have noticed that Munigyo's eyes were full of affection in addition to worry. In the ruins of the church, Tangmao had actually noticed that they had escaped. He even knew when his thunder bombarded them, but he couldn't control it. Thinking back to the first time he awakened, it was like this, but that time it was only because of the help of the black snake that he stabilized. However, when the ice system advanced before, this kind of thing did not happen. Therefore, Tangmao couldn't wait to upgrade to the thunder attribute, but who knew that now he could only rely on himself. If he couldn't control it, then he would have no chance to go to the city from now on. Tangmao controlled it again and again, but it broke free again and again. It seemed to be in a state of stiffness. Boom boom. Fortunately, the dark clouds in the sky were still absorbing the thunder attributes around him, so he didn't have to worry about dying of exhaustion. Of course, Tangmao thought about asking Killing Jade for help several times, but after helping him break through the high level, this dead Jade had almost no reaction. In addition to being able to absorb spirit essence, it was useless. It must be said that without the tool man, things became troublesome in an instant. Another half day passed, and the tug-of-war still had no intention of stopping. Tangmao wanted to give up for a moment, because his magic power was about to be unable to withstand it. And at this moment, the demon attribute that had appeared in his body suddenly flashed. A violent energy continued to burst out in the body. The originally violent thunder actually felt suppressed in front of the demon! Tangmao was slightly stunned. He didn't want to use the power of the demon. After all, even if he didn't transform, just bursting out his momentum would consume his soul power. The power of the soul is the most difficult to recover. The spirit can be restored, but now he has stock except for the few that can be sold. Zilla. Just when Tangmao was hesitant, the thunder in his body began to change. It kept overflowing from his body, and he felt numb. It was because his body was strong enough. In his own thunder, he just felt numb. If it was someone else, even a mid-level magician, he would have turned into charcoal at this time. Feeling the arrogance and restlessness of the thunder, Tangmao's miserly character disappeared instantly. In the face of life and death, all external things are not important. Then, Tangmao directly released the demonic aura. At the moment when the violent and bloodthirsty aura erupted, the thunder that was originally all around suddenly calmed down. At this time, the three people who were 100 meters away were worried when they saw Tangmao's body being attacked by the thunder. Even if Muningsu hadn't stopped her, Munigyo would have wanted to rush over. Looking at Muningsu who stopped her, Munigyo said anxiously, "If this continues, Tangmao will die. But, with your strength, even if you have magic tools to protect you, you will die before him, if you go in like this." Muningsu didn't expect this woman to be so stupid. In this situation, she actually wanted to rush in. This is simply sending herself to death. When Zao Manan was about to call for a stop, he suddenly felt a breathless oppression coming from behind. This aura was even more terrifying than that of the giant lizard pseudo-dragon. Not only Zao Manan noticed it, but Munigyo and Muningsu also felt it. The three of them turned their heads at the same time, but found that there were no demons. But the aura still exists, and it seems to be coming from Tangmao. The three people were stunned, looking at Tangmao, as if he was a monster. How strong is this guy? This aura is almost suffocating, Zao Manan said with a heavy breath. Neither of the two women responded, and they all stared blankly at the place where Tangmao was. The thunder that had just been everywhere had completely dissipated at this time, and even the dark clouds had left. For Munigyo and Muningsu, as long as Tangmao was fine, it was enough. Munigyo discovered her feelings, and Muningsu was saved by Tangmao several times before. Both of them didn't want Tangmao to be in danger, and as for whether he was strong or not, it was no longer their concern. After a while, the breath that made people suffocate dissipated. After the 3 people were relieved, the 2 women wanted to go over to find out. However, this time, Zao Manan stopped them. Don't worry, wait a little longer. Zao Manan looked serious. Munigyo was very anxious, but after thinking of the horror of the thunder just now, and Tangmao who was now safe, she nodded rationally. After more than 10 minutes passed, and there was still no response, the 3 people came closer. After the 3 people came, Tangmao also completely controlled the thunder domain. It must be said that this purple thunder is really overbearing. If it were not for the multiple power of the devil, he would have been really caught today. After getting up, looking at Munigyo rushing towards him, Tangmao stretched out his arms calmly and hugged her into his arms. The collision was so cool that he didn't expect that Munigyo would be so happy because of his promotion. Looking at the tender look in her eyes, Tangmao thought to himself, it's only because Muningsu and Zao Manan are here, otherwise Zao Gyo would have been in place. After Munigyo confirmed that Tangmao was fine, and that she had been taken advantage of, she suddenly remembered that there were not just the 2 of them here. Then, he pushed Tangmao away, and took a few steps back with a blushing face. Tangmao was not surprised by Munigyo's behavior. He then looked at Muningsu and said, I was not able to master the domain when I was promoted before. I'm sorry. Damn, brother, you are really perverted. Zao Manan walked over with a playful smile and gave Tangmao a hug. But, I'm glad to see that you are okay. I have decided to be your brother from now on. Tangmao pushed Zao Manan away with a look of disgust and then said, brother has a normal sexual orientation, just a token of respect. Zao Manan's mouth twitched slightly. Did he mean that his sexual orientation is not normal? P.S. It will be available on the first day of the release, and we will ship as many as we have in stock. There should be at least 10 updates. After that, the update depends on the subscription. The release will be made on Kidian, and the results will be calculated according to Kidian. Chapter 102, Zhang Kang's help. Thanks, why am I so poor? 60,000 book coins reward. Thanks to Nanzunian for 1,500 book coins reward. Thanks to Shaheo AI Tanshu for 988 book coins reward. Thanks to the killer, who has no feelings for 1,500 book coins reward. Thanks to the monthly ticket. After hugging Munigyo and Zao Manan, Tangmao walked towards Muningsu openly. The moment Muningsu saw Tangmao coming, her beautiful face blushed, because she had already estimated what was going to happen next. And Tangmao did not disappoint her. As soon as she reacted, he reached out and took her into his arms. With the warm and soft jade in his arms, Tangmao's face was filled with enjoyment. Especially when he thought of that day, the soft and elastic and suitable size of the he. A burst of evil fire was about to erupt. However, he still knew when to stop. Before Muningsu noticed something was wrong, Tangmao let go of her soft body. Although he had saved her several times, Tangmao could see that Muningsu was not in love with him. Sure enough, this cold beauty and the big rabbit were 2 opposite sides. After Tangmao let go of Muningsu, he saw the shepherd behind him pouting, as if he was a little dissatisfied, and said, I'm fine, you guys should take a rest, we can return to the city tomorrow. The 3 of them nodded at the same time. As for Emofan, neither Muningsu nor the other 2 mentioned it. After all, they also went to look for him. Whether Emofan was still alive or not, it all depended on his luck. There was no conversation that night. In the early morning of the next day, the 4 of them set out on their journey to leave here. Zao Manan said that he didn't want to stay in this ghost place for a day. Not to mention the horror of the monsters, just the flirting between Tangmao and the other 2 made him, a carnivore, feel a sense of disaster. The most important thing was that there were obviously 2 goddess level girls here, but none of them had anything to do with him. Being with Tangmao, he felt deeply frustrated. The previous strongness of picking up girls was really defeated in this deserted city training. Gradually, the four people finally walked out of the deserted city. Back to the way they came. The sky was completely white. There were some birds singing in the woods outside the city, which sounded very pleasant, as if it slightly diluted the atmosphere of death in the deserted city. At a glance, it was still the train track covered with moss and weeds. It passed through the woods and extended to the distance, leading to the city that was simply a paradise for the three people now. Of course, Tangmao didn't want to go back in a hurry. After all, this was a good place to make money, especially since he had the strength to retreat unscathed. He wanted to hunt monsters in the wild. However, the three of them definitely couldn't do it, and even Tangmao didn't have the confidence to take the three of them to this place full of monsters to ensure their safety. So, he decided to go back to the city with them. Hoola la under the white clouds. The chaotic airflow quickly passed by, and the sound of flapping wings came over, separating a sky blue center line in the clouds. A man wearing the same military robe as Lunan before, flapped his wings fiercely, and flew towards here. The man had a handsome face and obvious stubble. Although his collar was turned up, you could still see a very eye-catching scar on his neck extending to his chest. After seeing the person coming, Mu Nigio and Zao Manan were both panicked. With the devil Lunan first, they were instinctively a little afraid of this military mage. Chief Instructor Kang, Mu Ningsu muttered, after seeing the person clearly. Hearing this, Zao Manan said, Goddess Mu, do you know him? Mu Ningsu nodded, then looked at Tangmao and the other two and said, he is our Bochan Chief Instructor Kang. But Mu Ningsu was a little curious. Shouldn't this chief instructor be in charge of the southern military headquarters? Why did he come to the Dangting Lake Plain? At this time, Zan Kang also stopped in front of several people, glanced at the four people, and finally looked at Mu Ningsu and said, are you okay? What about that devil Lunan? Among the people here, Zan Kang only knew Mu Ningsu. After all, he had been guarding Bochan for many years, and Mu Ningsu came from Bochan. As for Tangmao and the other two, he really didn't know them. Mu Ningsu did not respond to his question, but asked back, Chief Instructor, how do you know about Lunan? After the disaster in Bochan, Zan Kang had been keeping an eye on Emofan, including asking Dean Zio to take extra care of him. Knowing that Emofan's natural dual system would be made public sooner or later, after learning about the terrifying military experiment of the demon system, he had been asking people to pay attention to the movements of the military on Lunan's side. Sure enough, they took action. After learning about this training, he hurried here. After all, it was not just Emofan who came to train this time, but also Tangmao. But now it seems a little too late. When he met Emofan on the way, Zan Kang knew the number of people who died. After listening to Emofan's explanation, who would have thought that Lunan was so cruel that he would kill all the students who were training here? These students are elite students from the Imperial Capital and the Magic Capital. They have unlimited futures, but because of Lunan's ambition, they died tragically in this deserted city. After hearing Zan Kang's reason for coming, Mu Ningsu breathed a sigh of relief. Then she briefly told him about what happened in the past few days. Of course, Mu Ningsu did not mention Tangmao's breakthrough to the high level. When Zan Kang learned that they had worked together to solve Lunan, his eyes were full of disbelief. After all, even he was not sure that he could beat Lunan. But when he looked at Tangmao, he felt that maybe this was really possible. Just like when Emofan was training just now, didn't he kill a ghost wolf beast alone? Tangmao, who was even more perverted than Emofan, relied on his full cultivation of 4 element, plus the domain power of 2 soul seeds, and Mu Ningsu, the Bochan Xian Jiao. It seemed that, even if he killed Lunan, it was not impossible. After confirming that they were fine, Zan Kang stopped talking nonsense and said, well, since Lunan is dead, I will take you back to the city. He was too lazy to ask them how they killed Lunan. After all, who doesn't have a secret? As long as this demon is eliminated, isn't it enough? As for his body, Zan Kang didn't think about retrieving it. According to Mu Ningsu, the other party should have been fed to the demons in this deserted city. Led by Zan Kang, they can be regarded as having a safe journey. Even if they encountered dozens of demons, Zan Kang could easily kill them with a high-level fire magic. Tangmao was also a small account for a time, following the dungeon. During the journey, he would occasionally provoke some demons. After all, Free labor is not wasted. PS. I have worked hard these past 2 days. I will guarantee 10 updates on the day the app is released. Chapter 103. No need to be grateful, just get a discount. Half a month later, everyone returned to the Imperial capital safely. After returning to the Imperial Capital Academy, Tang Mao realized that not only Mo Fan was encountered by Zinkong, but also Peng Liang, Songza, Jingjing, and Bai Tingting, who finally returned safely. Although Mingsu Academy suffered losses during this training, they were obviously very small in comparison. However, the Imperial Capital Academy suffered extremely heavy losses this time. Mingsu Academy lost Luo Song and Shen Mingxiao. However, the Imperial Capital Academy lost Mingkong, Lu Zeng, Liao Mingsun, Zhao Mingyu, Zhu Daling, and Xiaofeng, a total of 6 people. Although Lu Zeng deserved to die because of Lu Nian, the other 5 people were simply the loss of the Imperial Capital Academy. However, no matter what, things have come to this. Lu Nian is also dead, and the Imperial Capital Academy can only be thankful that someone came back alive. As for Lu Nian's death, the news broadcast did not say that Tang Mao and others killed him. This is also what Tang Mao asked for. It is better to be low-key. After 2 days of rest in the Imperial capital, the team leader Qiyu Yuhua and others were ready to take Tang Mao and others back to the magic capital. In fact, Qiyu Yuhua wanted to take people away when they came back that day. The reason was naturally that he was afraid that Tang Mao would be pried away. This time, the people from both schools knew very well that Tang Mao's strength was comparable to that of a high level 1. Of course, this was because they didn't know that Tang Mao had already broken through to the high level, otherwise Fang Shan would have been responsible for taking people away regardless of their mood. On a playground in the Imperial Capital Academy, Tang Mao looked at Muningsu beside him and said, "We will go back tomorrow. If you have any physical problems, come to the magic capital to find me." "Okay, thank you this time." Muningsu nodded and said thank you again. After all, if it weren't for Tang Mao this time, she might not be able to come back. Hearing this, Tang Mao reached out and grabbed Muningsu's little hand. At that moment, Muningsu's first reaction was to refuse. However, when she saw Tang Mao's ice attribute energy radiating, she did not refuse. In her opinion, she felt that Tang Mao was checking for her. Muningsu obviously did not expect that Tang Mao originally wanted to hug her, but when he noticed her rejection, he changed to checking. Now, as long as Muningsu does not use the ice crystal breaking bow, she will be fine. It's just that she doesn't know. After touching the tender little hand for a while, Tang Mao let go with a little disappointment. For this cold beauty, it is not difficult to pursue her wholeheartedly. But, let him lick all the way to the end like Mo Fan. Tang Mao can't do it. After all, if he licks nothing in the end, wouldn't he be embarrassed? Now he can't capture her, so he can only let it go in the future. Then, Tang Mao said very solemnly, "As long as you don't use the ice crystal breaking bow now, you should not be backlashed again." Muningsu nodded, and because of this, she was very grateful to Tang Mao. In fact, the frozen heart already had a little crack. Otherwise, when Tang Mao grabbed her hand, she would have frozen it to let Tang Mao know that her hand was not something that could be held casually. After saying goodbye to Muningsu, everyone left the Imperial capital under the leadership of several teachers. Back in the Magic City, Tang Mao was called to the office by Dean Zhao. He was very glad that he let Tang Mao go with him this time and saved so many students in Mingsu Academy. Dean Zhao said with a smile, "Letting you be an exchange student this time is really the most correct decision I have ever made." "Well, Dean Zhao, I agree with you." Tang Mao nodded and admitted without any modesty. Dean Zhao's mouth twitched slightly, although this is indeed a fact. But, Tang Mao's appearance, no matter how you look at it, seems to be asking for a beating. "Dean Zhao, you don't have to be so grateful to me. I can't afford it. Why don't you give me something practical, such as spirit seed fragments, beast souls suitable for my Xiaobei's promotion, etc. Or cash is fine." Tang Mao looked at Dean Zhao and said bluntly. Speaking of which, he made a great effort this time. Although the harvest was indeed not small, the spirit essence that could be exchanged for money in the end was all lost. He has to feed his daughter every day, and the funds are very tight now. Tang Mao now has only 50 million left in his hands. If there is no income, let alone improving his strength, he can't even support his daughter. Dean Zio had a happy look on his face just now, but after hearing what Tang Mao said, his head was instantly black. Although he didn't intend to just praise Tang Mao verbally. But what the hell are you talking about? Question mark? However, after hearing what Tang Mao just said about promotion, Dean Zio paused, then said, "You have broken through to the high level?" Tang Mao nodded, and Dean Zio's eyes were full of surprise and said, "You little brat is really perverted." It was rare to see Dean Zio like this, and it was obvious that his breakthrough to the high level was really incredible. It was indeed a bit too fast. But, is this surprising? Tang Mao thought, I haven't told you yet that I have not only broken through to the high level. Finally, after thinking about it, he didn't say this, so as not to be really regarded as a monster by Dean Zio. Tang Mao just smiled, and Dean Zio said again, although your dimensional summon beast is very powerful, it is not a creature of this world after all. Are you sure you want to help it evolve? In Dean Zio's opinion, this matter is somewhat not worth it. After all, dimensional summon beasts are not things of this world, and whether to help or not, whether to appear or not, depends entirely on their mood. Tang Mao nodded indifferently and said, of course. This time, Xiao Bei has made a lot of efforts in the deserted city, and even almost died in Jinlin City. For this reason, it is worth my help to promote it. It is really impossible for Tang Mao to get these things by himself. After all, he is poor. The food his daughter eats is getting more and more expensive. The monthly milk powder money is enough for Tang Mao to worry about. He also needs resources to improve the space system and summoning system as soon as possible. Otherwise, it is unknown when the third high level awakening will take place. So, if you can cheat as many people as possible, you can. Having said that, even if the school pays, they will not lose money. After all, the benefits he will bring to Mingsu Academy in the future will definitely exceed their efforts. Sure enough, Dean Zio nodded and scolded with a smile. Okay, I will buy these for you. You are really rude to me now. Tang Mao put his hands together and bowed. Thank you, Dean. Chapter 104 3 Series Advanced Level. After leaving Dean Zio, Tang Mao left the academy and headed straight for the Qingshan hunting house. Although he had tricked Dean Zio, poverty was still his signature word. Now he could only go to the Qingshan hunting house to see if there were any bounties to accept. Of course, on the way, Tang Mao still wanted to report to Tang Yu what he had gained from this experience, and the fact that he had broken through 2 departments this time. Unfortunately, his future wife's phone was turned off, so he couldn't contact her at all. It was also because the judge's communication devices were always turned off when they were doing tasks. In the end, Tang Mao had no choice but to give up. Lingling, I'm back. When they arrived outside the Qingshan hunting house, the voice came before the person. Then with a creak, Tang Mao pushed the door and walked in, but the old man Bao who usually sat at the bar was not there, and the little lolly who was bored all day long was not there either. Instead, there was an extremely cold and charming woman who sat there drinking coffee. When she saw Tang Mao coming in, she looked over. Are you Tang Mao? Tang Mao paused, then asked in confusion, are you Lingling's sister, Lenking? Looking at this young lady with a tall figure and sharp eyes, she exudes a murderous aura that is different from most cold and beautiful women. And in this Qingshan hunting house, there are no other young ladies except them. That's why Tang Mao asked this question. Oh. Lenking was suspicious and looked at Tang Mao and said, you know me. Tang Mao thought to himself, it's hasty. It seems that neither Lingling nor old man Bao told him about Lenking. It was Tang Yu who told me that Lingling has a sister who is the president of the trial. At this time, he really couldn't explain it, except to bring up Tang Yu. After all, he couldn't say that he saw it in a book, right? Lenking nodded and said, come in. I heard that you went to the deserted city for training. How do you feel? Hearing this, Tang Mao curled her lips and said, you didn't receive any news about what happened in the deserted city? What? Lenking paused. 3 days ago, she had been on a mission outside. It was only after she finished the mission that she had time to come back. Apart from listening to Lingling's story about Tang Mao, she really didn't care about other news. The only thing that Lingling cared about was the Black Church. Tang Mao shrugged, then poured a cup of tea for himself, sat next to Lingling, and told Lingling about what happened in Jinlin City. After learning about what Tang Mao had experienced during this training, Lingling said coldly, "This kind of crazy person is no different from the Black Church. Good job." Tang Mao didn't react much to Lingling's hatred of evil. After all, this sister dared to take the risk to dig up the existence of the Black Church. When the two were chatting, Lingling seemed to be back from school. Old Bayo also bought the food and rushed back. Tang Mao was lucky enough to have another meal. As for the bounty, there are some, but unfortunately they are not the kind that require brains. It's nothing more than some escorts and monster hunting things. Lingling has no interest in getting involved. Of course, she doesn't have enough reasons to get involved in such things. But Tang Mao is different. When his life is not threatened, money is the most important thing for him. After eating and accepting the task, Tang Mao left. These escort tasks are actually very simple, especially those that Lingling can accept, which are almost all done by mid-level mages. For Tang Mao, this kind of task is just to kill time. The monsters encountered are also some of the highest level of generals, and there are only 2 or 3 of them. The rest are just some servant level monsters. Tang Mao's magic bombardment can kill a large area in 1 second. In addition to doing tasks, Tang Mao spent the rest of his time controlling the stars of the ice and thunder systems. During this period, Dean Zio also bought Tang Mao the bone strengthening and blood transfusion that Zio Bei needed for his evolution. These 2 items have been successfully completed. The remaining is the beast soul that is needed. Zio Bei's bloodline is relatively high, and the beast soul of the command level is extremely rare, so Dean Zio has not found a suitable one until now. Because of this, Zio Bei has been useless recently. Tang Mao regretted it a little. He was anxious to make it. Now Zio Bei is just a big cat that looks good but is useless. Fortunately, he is now advanced and does not need Zio Bei's help, so Tang Mao is not anxious about it. After all, he has not yet collected enough money to buy the high-level summoning system of the Galaxy Pulse Sting. A month has passed. Tang Mao finally connected the constellation of the ice system successfully. He can already release the high-level magic of the ice system and the frozen coffin. The ice system has made a breakthrough, but the high-level magic of the thunder system still needs time. And during this month, Tang Mao also met Tang Yu when he had no tasks. Some time ago, her phone was not connected. Just as Tang Mao thought, she was on a mission, tracking a murderer. Tang Mao was not worried after hearing this. After all, Tang Yu had reached the high level of dual systems. Moreover, she had a lot of magic tools, not only those given by the Judgment Council, but also gifts from Tang Zhang. The two had not seen each other for a long time, and they were naturally furious when they met. Tang Mao gave all the public grain accumulated during the period in the deserted city and the accumulated after returning to Tang Yu without reservation. After returning, although Munugio had allowed Tang Mao to take some small advantages, the last step was delayed. Therefore, Tang Mao was almost overwhelmed. Of course, it was not that she did not give. It was just that AI Tutu, the stupid rabbit, always messed up the situation. Or she left on a mission. In short, when the luck was not good, Tang Mao could only seek comfort from his future wife. After a week of being with Tang Yu, Tang Mao received some financial support from Tang Yu, and finally had the funds to buy the second copy of the Galaxy Vein. At the same time, Dean Zio also found a suitable beast soul for Tang Mao. Everything is just right. Tang Mao returned to the Magic City and applied for the opportunity to enter the 3-step tower. Although there is the Vein of the Galaxy, it is only the second one after all. Tang Mao still feels that it is a little difficult to break through outside. Dean Zio gave face and agreed after Tang Mao's request. After entering the 3-step tower for a week, Tang Mao successfully broke through to the high-level summoning system with the help of the 3-step tower and the Vein of the Galaxy. Now he is also considered a high level of 3 systems. As long as he waits until the space system reaches a high level, he can awaken a new magic system. When Tang Mao thought of 2 more magic systems, his heart was full of curiosity and expectation. P.S. Please give me a monthly ticket. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 105, Going to Daunting Lake Again. After leaving the 3-step tower, the first thing Tang Mao did was to call out his sick cat. At this time, Xiao Bei was like a patient who had just undergone full body surgery. He was in great pain all over his body. Tang Mao felt uncomfortable watching him grimacing. Advancement is extremely painful. After all, you have to abandon your original skin. The first 2 steps are like your whole body being shattered and your blood being drained. The final soul shaping is even more terrifying. It is a kind of destruction and reshaping from the soul. The pain of the soul is the most difficult to erase in the heart, and it requires a summoned beast to have a strong belief in becoming stronger. Fortunately, when it went to Xianshan, after seeing the Shinan white tiger with a higher bloodline and higher realm than it also had an abnormal desire to become stronger. Faith is considered to have passed the test. Moreover, its living environment in the ancient wasteland of the summoning plane does not allow it to be a weakling who can be slaughtered at will. Not long after it was born, it tried its best to survive in the ancient wasteland of the summoning plane, fighting and killing non-stop. Looking at Xiao Bei, Tang Mao persuaded, be prepared for the pain, and don't force it, if you really can't hold on. Anyway, there is still a chance. Raw Xiao Bei roared a few times, telling Tang Mao that it can definitely hold on. Okay, soul shaping begins. As the advancement began, Tang Mao carefully checked the form of the beast soul. I saw that the beast soul was not a dead demon, but a black giant tiger, pure black, without a trace of mixed color, red eyes full of gloomy breath, more than 8 meters long, with bulging muscles all over the body, probably weighing more than 1,000 pounds. The word king on the forehead is also black, but different from the black of the fur. It is a gloomy black like fog. The most peculiar thing is its tail. Compared with ordinary tiger monsters, its tail is much longer and stands upright. It is composed of countless joints, and the top is a huge barb, shining with a cold light. Shadow Demon Tiger? Tang Mao remembered that Dean Zio had mentioned it, but he didn't care at that time. After all, whether it can evolve successfully is still a matter of luck. The momentum of this beast soul is indeed so strong that people are a little retreating, but the stronger it is, it means that if you defeat it, the greater the transformation you will get. Moreover, Xiao Bei, who has seen the momentum of the Shinan white tiger, did not mean to be timid. Obviously, after more contact with the big guys, some commander level monsters can no longer pose any threat to him. After a long time, on a training ground of Mingsu Academy, a sharp roar suddenly shook the ground violently, and the beast momentum caused the surrounding teaching buildings to turbulent. In the office, after hearing the roar, Dean Zio said with emotion, "This kid is really good at creating surprises." He actually succeeded. The soul of the Shadow Demon Tiger was obtained by Dean Zio through connections and spending 300 million. Of course, he did not provide it for free. After all, the academy is not a place to make money. Dean Zio asked Tang Mao to pay him half of the money later, and Tang Mao agreed. As long as he succeeded in advancing, and his strength was obtained, he could pay half of the money to the school. In the school field, Tang Mao looked at the black giant tiger in front of him, and smacked his lips. No wonder Dean Zio asked me for 150 million. This momentum is good. Go back to your world, and be a hegemon. Comprehend your power in an instant. Tang Mao himself did not expect that he would succeed in advancing in one go. Moreover, judging from this momentum, even the giant lizard pseudo-dragon before is not ahead at all. However, Tang Mao felt a pain in his flesh when he thought about paying 150 million. Roar after hearing Tang Mao asking it to go back, the Shadow Demon Tiger growled, licked Tang Mao, and left this world. Dean Zio came here just after Tang Mao received the Shadow Demon Tiger. How is it? Did you succeed in the promotion? Hearing this, Tang Mao shook his head and said, "No, no. Stinky boy, do you want to cheat me?" Dean Zhao was very upset. He seemed to have never seen anyone more shameless than Tang Mao. After such a big commotion just now, he was not really so old that he had no sense at all. Tang Mao said this just to deny it. Dean Zhao, just kidding, just kidding. Although Tang Mao is indeed a miser, he would not cheat Dean Zhao. After all, Dean Zhao said that the market price of this beast soul may be 400 million. In other words, he risked his old face and only got it for 300 million. It is not too much to ask Tang Mao to pay half. After all, Dean Zhao gave it as a gift, so he could buy a cheap beast soul to perfunctorily deal with it. But in the end, he still carefully found a valuable one for Tang Mao, which was very kind. "I will return the money to you when I come back next time." Hearing this, Dean Zhao paused and then said, "Are you leaving again?" Tang Mao nodded. He was ready to hunt a group of demons. As for the location, he naturally chose Dangting Lake. Remember that the strongest demon here is the commander level demon. With his current strength, the commander level demons can no longer pose any threat to him. Not to mention the shadow demon tiger, he can already release higher level magic in the ice system. Although the thunder system cannot release higher level magic, the intermediate magic on the way back directly strengthened 49 stars. The most important thing is that his magic tools, the black snake demon armor and the magic tools, the cloud stepping boots, can already be used, so there is no need to worry about safety. If possible, Tang Mao even wants to hunt a commander level demon. You know, even if a commander level demon does not explode its spirit, its body is valuable. Now he has 150 million yuan in debt, plus his daughter Zunu's milk powder costs tens of millions every month, and he also needs resources for his own cultivation. If he doesn't go hunting monsters, he will be out of money. After saying goodbye to Dean Zhao, Tang Mao also accepted some hunter's bounties when he left. For example, if there is any material needed for the lizard-headed giant monster clan, he will not miss it at all. A day later, Tang Mao came to Bai City, southeast of the Dangting Lake Plain, and then bought some food reserves here, and then left directly, and rushed to Dangting Lake. Zizhao Valley, this small valley with depressions everywhere, will show a strange stream of light when the sun sets in the afternoon. Some people say that there are some special flowers planted here that will bloom all of a sudden in the evening. It sounds very beautiful and even attracts some explorers to take risks here to take pictures. But unlike others, Tang Mao came here simply to hunt monsters and treasures, and he has no interest in appreciating the beautiful scenery. P.S. Chapter 106 Automatic Defense. After entering the interior of Dangting Lake, gold, silver and jewelry can be seen everywhere. Tang Mao was not polite at all. He used both ice and thunder, and was protected by the shadow demon tiger. He was a typical mobile turret, bombarding all the way. The corpses of lizard skull giant monsters, wolf monsters, and spider monsters were almost everywhere on his journey. Of course, there are still many lizard skull giant monsters in Dangting Lake, so most of the corpses are still lizard skull giant monsters. On the first day, Tang Mao killed nearly 1,000 monsters. He was not idle, nor did he come to improve his strength. His target was the giant lizard pseudo-dragon here. This is its lair. As long as he finds it, he will kill it. Its huge body alone is a considerable income. And to solve it, it is natural to clear a wave of monsters first. After all, if a fight breaks out, the current giant lizard pseudo-dragon is not ahead at all. Not to mention Tang Mao, even the shadow demon tiger, the current strength is enough to kill it directly. Although it has a trace of true dragon blood, it is only a trace after all. Compared with Xiaobei's pure magic tiger bloodline, it is not a little bit worse. Moreover, if I remember correctly, there is also an earth-type spirit seed here. Take it away together. In short, the 3 light policy, as long as it is valuable, it must be taken away. At night, after a day of killing, Tang Mao finally found a cave with no demons nearby. With his strong mental power, as long as there are demons near him, he can sense it immediately. Even Tang Mao's detection ability is not inferior to that of a beginner sound mage. However, just when Tang Mao entered the cave and was about to sit down to rest, a black snake suddenly bit from the side with its mouth open. This black snake that suddenly appeared was not huge, but it was extremely fast. Even because it was too sudden, Tang Mao almost forgot to kill it. And at the moment when the black snake bit him, a thick ice wall suddenly appeared on his side. Bang! After the black snake hit it, a trace of green venom emerged. Thunder. Boom. Boom. At the moment, when the little snake was blocked, Tang Mao, who had come back to his senses, did not bother to wonder, and directly cast a mid-level magic, smashing the black snake to pieces, and directly turning it into black mist and dispersing. After dealing with the snake, Tang Mao breathed a sigh of relief with some fear. In fact, to kill such a small snake, or thunder seal is enough. However, this thing appeared too suddenly, making Tang Mao furious. At the same time, he secretly cursed himself in his heart. I was careless. There are still benefits to training in the wild. At least you learn a lesson from your mistakes. Special. After Tang Mao sat down, he broke out in a cold sweat on his back, followed by a burst of civilized language. He had just checked clearly that there should be no demons nearby, but this snake was clearly a servant level demon. Fortunately, it was still small, and the thick ice wall that suddenly appeared saved its life. Otherwise, Tang Mao estimated that he might not die, but he would be poisoned. How did that snake just now avoid my exploration? That layer of ice wall, is it the ice field skill for promotion? Tang Mao wondered in his heart, feeling that some of his skills seemed to be in a cooling state. If he hadn't been attacked by the snake that evaded the detection, he really didn't know that he actually had the skill of self-defense. This is nice. It can save lives at a critical moment. It can be regarded as a blessing and a curse. But unfortunately, it is not clear how strong its defense is. But for the sake of safety, Tang Mao did not think deeply, but turned his head to look at the cave, and then the star track emerged. Ice vine. Freeze. Then, a thick layer of ice instantly spread throughout the cave. When the cave was completely covered by the cave owner, Tang Mao immediately realized that there was not only one small black snake here, but a nest. However, after the ice was all over, they were all cold here. I actually walked into the snake's nest. After dealing with these snakes, Tang Mao looked at the cave in trance again, and his mouth twitched slightly and said, "It seems that I'm destined to not rest peacefully tonight." I foolishly walked into the snake's nest and killed the little snake. For a creature like snakes that remember grudges, it will definitely continue to retaliate against me. So the best way is naturally to completely destroy it. The so-called cutting the grass and eradicating the roots. There is no mercy to treat demons. Tang Mao waited and waited, and a whole hour passed, but he still didn't notice anything approaching. Of course, because of the previous black snake, he didn't completely believe in his perception. A small snake of the slave level can avoid his exploration, let alone their mother. There are no other demons nearby, and I think the strength of this mother snake must be not bad. The level must be not low. Tang Mao didn't even choose to practice in the dark, but to control the star. Unknowingly, 3 hours passed. Just when he thought the mother snake here was cool and needed to take a rest, he suddenly shuddered. Then Tang Mao opened his eyes immediately, and he immediately felt a strong breath rushing here with a feeling of anger. Needless to say, this must be the mother snake who realized that her nest was taken away, so she came here so angrily. However, even so, Tang Mao didn't notice it until the other party arrived in front of the cave. It can be seen how powerful this kind of demon's hiding ability is. When Tang Mao felt that the snake was approaching, he rushed out of the cave. The moment he came out, a bloody mouth came directly with venom. Black snake demon armor. For this kind of highly toxic demon, the black snake demon armor is the best defense. It is great to have such a magic tool to deal with this kind of poison. After all, poison is sometimes colorless and tasteless. Ice crystal defense. Although there is no snow girl, after breaking through the high level, his speed is not slow when releasing the defensive ice wall. Bang! The black python's impact was blocked by the ice wall. Tang Mao flipped over and jumped, pulling away from the opponent. At the same time, Tang Mao felt that his skill, which was cooling down, seemed to have recovered. 4 hours? After mumbling something, Tang Mao looked at the black python and thought, "I'll use you as an experiment." Thinking of this, Tang Mao did not move and slowly drew a star map, as if he was preparing to release magic to attack the black python. Chapter 107 Hunting Time. A general level demon has some wisdom. It also knows that Tang Mao is brewing magic, and at this time, he is the weakest. If you don't bite him to pieces now, what are you waiting for? Hiss. After a roar, the python suddenly rushed towards Tang Mao. Tang Mao never intended to defend himself, because even the ice wall could not stop the opponent's impact. Tang Mao, who has the demon system and the black snake magic armor to protect his body, is not a matter of seconds. At the moment, when the black python rushed over, a loud bang sounded. Tang Mao stood there safely, and the black python, like her little snake, was intercepted by a thick ice wall. The ice wall did not suffer any damage when blocking the black python. Thunderbolt. Boom. After seeing the scene he wanted to see, Tang Mao blasted out with a thunderbolt. Thunder fell from the sky and hit the body of the black python, that was knocked into the wall and was dizzy. Then, with a rumbling sound of thunder, it exploded directly on its body. The black python was just a general level demon. Under Tang Mao's violent thunder bombardment, its body was almost as thin as paper, and it was directly shattered into slag. The most powerful of this kind of demon is obviously an ambush. It is not a head-on confrontation. After the black python was smashed to pieces by a thunder, it actually exploded a rare spirit. What a nest of good demons. After collecting the spirit, Tang Mao praised with great joy. During the day, he had killed all day, but no spirit exploded, but at night, he killed one and it exploded. This nest of snakes is full of friendliness. After solving this hidden danger, he can finally take a break. However, in terms of mental state, he has always been tense. Although he is powerful, he is in the wilderness after all, so it is always good to be careful. It was a peaceful night. When Tang Mao woke up the next morning, the magic energy he consumed yesterday had been fully restored. This demon system is really awesome. Since I have it, I don't have to worry about my lack of magic energy and being unable to save my life when hunting monsters. On a new day, Tang Mao once again embarked on a journey to slay monsters and exorcise demons. Before he left, he still remembered where this place was. It is most important to have a safe living environment in the wild. As for the body of the black giant python, although he wanted to keep it, he had a goal and could not go back in a day or two. The premise of contributing to mankind is that he cannot eat dirt, so in the end he could only choose to blast it into slag. After all, if the corpse stays here for a long time, it will stink and affect the environment. Today, Tang Mao continued to sweep the map as usual. Whether it was a giant dead lizard or other lizard-headed giant monsters, Tang Mao threw a destructive thunder when he saw it. Even though the lizard skull giant monsters are multiplying at a fast rate, if they are killed day by day like this, it will take at least 4 or 5 years for this place to be absolutely safe. While he was making money, he also made some great contributions to the cities close to Dangting Lake. The next day, 3 days, 7 days, 15 days, until a month passed, Tang Mao continued to kill almost a large tribe of lizard skull giant monsters and various general level monsters here. No matter what monsters he encountered, as long as he met them, he would kill them. The harvest was naturally very rich. 10 slave level spirits were collected, and 3 general level spirits were collected. And his thunder star was also perfectly enhanced to level 4 with 343 stars. That's right, Tang Mao's thunder system has now reached the realm of being able to release high level magic. The skills of the ice system and space system have also been strengthened to the intermediate level. Tang Mao's target today is the giant lizard pseudo dragon. No, it should be the weapon shelled giant lizard. He had actually been wrong about one thing before. The giant lizard pseudo dragon was not in this area. The overlord of this area is the woodcut giant lizard. Although its strength is not as strong as the giant lizard pseudo dragon, it is also a leader. The leader of the giant lizard skull monsters in this area. For Tang Mao, it is actually the same. Isn't it enough to be a leader level monster? Of course, Tang Mao has also come into contact with the leaders and monsters here. There are not only woodcut giant lizards, but also a huge leader and centipede and some other monsters. But no matter which one, there are younger brothers around to protect him. He encountered them before, and they ran away. Fortunately, all the giant lizard skull monsters in this area were killed by him. Otherwise, this woodcut giant lizard might still have the possibility of running away in the end. After all, those little monsters are scrambling to be cannon fodder without fear of death. Just when Tangmao went to find trouble with a woodcut giant lizard, he saw a person on the road. To be precise, it was a woman, and a woman with a great figure. But now this woman seems to be in trouble. That is, she is poisoned. Tangmao came to her in a few leaps and said, "Hey, woman, what's wrong with you?" It was because this girl had an attractive figure and a decent appearance. Otherwise, Tangmao would have ignored her. Sometimes, people are so realistic. For example, when several waves of hunters came here to find the Earth-type top-grade spirit seeds where the woodcut giant lizard was, he had already dissuaded them. The spirit seeds are guarded by the leaders and demons. If you don't want to die, don't go. But this group of people didn't listen and thought he was afraid that others would get the treasure. Although he had this intention, Tangmao was really doing it for their own good. If the lizard skull giant monster had not been dealt with at that time, he would have dealt with the woodcut giant lizard and collected the earth-type spirit seeds by himself. You know, the spirit seeds here are top grade, and the market price can be sold for about 30 million. With the spirit seeds, some of the essence on his body, and the huge body of the woodcut giant lizard, he could sell them to the military and return to the city. But the woman who appeared obviously disrupted his plan. Li Man, who came here to investigate the truth about the death of the giant lizard skull monster, looked at her legs that were infected with the swamp poison at some point, and her white jade feet turned into a large patch of purple. She was puzzled, and when she tried to detoxify it, but to no avail, she was thinking about asking for help when she heard a shout behind her. Looking back, she saw a young man who paused slightly and responded, "I'm poisoned." Tangmao said oh, and then asked about the place she passed by. After she said it, Tangmao took out the antidote he had found before. Chapter 108 Li Man, you are a high-level magician? Question mark. If you often walk by the river, you will get your feet wet. He was poisoned before, but with his devilish constitution, it was not a big deal. However, he still found a way to detoxify. Tangmao took the medicine and applied it to the young lady with a great figure. Li Man paused when she saw the medicine applied by Tangmao, because after applying the medicine, she immediately felt comfortable. She brought all kinds of detoxification potions and used them all, but she was shocked to find that she could not suppress the swamp toxicity that was gradually climbing up her feet. The swamp is a mixture of water and earth. She has used both water detoxification potions and earth detoxification potions, but they are completely ineffective. But what Tangmao used on her happened to work. Li Man asked in confusion, "What is this? Why didn't I use so many detoxifying drugs, but the one you used worked?" Tangmao shrugged and said, "I also found a solution after being poisoned, but I'm not a pharmacist, so I don't know how to answer your question." Though Li Man was a little disappointed, but still said thank you. "You are not poisoned deeply, and you found it early enough. You should be fine after a rest." Li Man nodded and said, "What are you going to do?" Tangmao did not deny it and responded, "Go hunt the big guys here." Because he sensed the powerful magic aura emanating from the woman. This means that this woman is also a magician, and a high-level magician. Similarly, Tangmao remembered that in the original book, a military magician came here to investigate the cause of death of the Dangting Lake Lizard Skull monster. It is probably this hot woman. To confirm, Tangmao asked, "Are you a military mage?" Li Man was stunned for a moment, then nodded and admitted, and then asked puzzledly, "How did you know? Your aura is very strong. You should be a high-level mage. You should not come here for the earth-type spirits, so you should be attracted by the recent casualties of the lizard-headed giant monsters. Based on the above, I guess you are a military mage." Tangmao said seriously. Li Man was secretly surprised. She didn't expect Tangmao's judgment to be so strong. How could she know that Tangmao was relying on his fragmentary memories and making random guesses? After the words fell, Tangmao picked him up. It was not known whether he did it intentionally or unintentionally. This hug just covered the huge. Although Li Man was careless, she was a woman after all. A blush appeared on her face and said, "You." Tang Mao smiled awkwardly, but did not mean to let go, and responded, accidental, accidental. If it was at the beginning, Li Man could still believe that he was careless. But this guy has not meant to take his hand away until now? Is this still accidental? Question mark. Seeing Li Man with a livid face, Tang Mao moved his hand and said with a smile, it's mainly because I haven't felt this touch for a long time, and I forgot everything for a while. For this shameless remark, Li Man really wanted to give him a high-level magic. Tang Mao had already started to rush her to the place where the woodcut giant lizard was. Even if Li Man wanted to get angry, she had no chance at all. Where are you taking me? Although she was held, the bumps along the way almost made Li Man feel unusually uncomfortable. Tang Mao did not stop and responded, hunting the woodcut giant lizard. When I solve it, you will contact it directly and sell it to the military. The moment Li Man heard that Tang Mao was going to take her to hunt the woodcut giant lizard, her mind was buzzing. What a joke. That's a commander level demon, just the two of them, and she is injured like now? Hey, brother, don't be impulsive, okay? Although Li Man was not afraid of death, she didn't think about seeking death. Even if we want to fight, we have to wait until she recovers her strength, right? If we can't beat her, maybe we can run away. Tang Mao was not panicked at all and comforted her. Don't worry, it won't die, it's just a giant lizard. Hey, hey, hey. No matter what Li Man said, Tang Mao didn't mean to pay attention. After all, let alone Tang Mao, even if it was his son and daughter, he could easily deal with it. Of course, at this moment, his daughter was still in hibernation. However, the shadow demon tiger was enough. After a while, Tang Mao brought Li Man to the inside of a valley. At this time, Li Man had given up. She felt that she had met a madman. There was a raised flat land in the middle of the valley. If the entire valley occupied by 70% of the swamp was compared to a lake, then the raised flat land in the middle was a bit like an island in the middle of the lake. After arriving here, Tang Mao put Li Man down. Li Man also looked around curiously and said, how come we have all come in here, but the martial shell giant lizard has not appeared yet? Even the lizard skull giant monster has not appeared yet? It is said that the territorial awareness of the leader level monsters is extremely strong. Others have already broken in here, but there is no resistance at all. This is a bit weird. After Tang Mao summoned the shadow demon tiger to appear, he responded, that's because I have killed all the lizard skull giant monsters and giant death lizards in this area, and the martial shell giant lizard is just hiding. Li Man turned her head and looked over when she heard the words. When she saw the shadow demon tiger, she was stunned. She said with a look of shock, you are a high-level summoner? She never thought that the young man she thought was a madman would actually be a high-level magician and a summoner. Question mark? A high-level summoner is already a very powerful existence among the same level. After looking at Tang Mao's summoned beast, Li Man thought to herself, with just this summoned beast, I'm afraid that more than 10 high-level mages may not be the opponent. At this moment, she also understood why this guy dared to hunt the Wu Shell giant lizard. Why didn't you say it earlier? I was frightened all the way for nothing. Li Man complained a little dissatisfied and just gave up the distress signal that was about to be sent. Tang Mao paused and turned back and said, did you ask me? Li Man was a little puzzled. Is this a matter of asking or not? You look young. Who would have thought that you would be a high-level mage? Geniuses from big families would definitely not come to such a place to train, right? Those who come here to be hunter mages are definitely not from big families, so Li Man naturally didn't think about high-level things. For a moment, she was really speechless. At this time, under the swamp, it seemed that they had sensed the threat, and a roar that was enough to shake the entire valley suddenly exploded. Chapter 109, Shocked. This strange cry was like a roar in the air. Fortunately, Tang Mao had put up an ice wall in advance to block it. Otherwise, tinnitus would be certain. After the roar, the flat land in the center of the swamp lake suddenly rose from the ground. It completely broke away from the swamp surface and rose up all of a sudden, and the larger body hidden under the deep swamp was completely exposed, huge enough to roll up a storm in this dead swamp lake. As the black creature stood up, it slowly began to tilt. When the black creature stood up completely, the flat land was not flat at all, but the back of this guy. Tang Mao directly ignored its strength and said to Zhao Hei, "Go, take care of it." That's right, the white tiger turned into a black tiger, and it was honored to get a new name. After Zhao Hei received Tang Mao's order, he rushed up directly. Li Man had just come back to his senses after Tang Mao's powerful summon beast appeared, and he felt a cold ice attribute again. It was not until Zhao Hei rushed out that the ice wall dissipated. Li Man was in a bad state. He looked at Tang Mao and asked in disbelief, "Your ice system is not also high level, right?" "Yes, that's right." Tang Mao did not show any modesty and nodded to admit it. Oh my god, on the way here, Li Man knew that Tang Mao was still a student. And he was only 20 years old, and he was high level in both systems. This blow was really heavy. Of course, Tang Mao did not show his thunder system, otherwise, this carefree woman should be stimulated, right? Are you a human or a monster? It's no wonder that Li Man was so shocked. Although some clans in the Judgment Society fully cultivate this kind of talented young people, they can also reach this level at this age. But no matter which big power it is impossible for the young people to take such risks. Therefore, Tang Mao must not be from a big power. But because of this, Li Man was a little shocked and couldn't close her mouth. Tang Mao waved his hand and smiled. "Don't make such a fuss. After all, my brother will be the strongest man in the world in the future." If someone else who was still living in the academy said this, Li Man would probably slap him to wake him up. But she didn't doubt what Tang Mao said in front of her. On the contrary, she believed it very much. It would be true. Just when Tang Mao and Li Man were talking nonsense, the woodcut giant lizard that was fighting with Zhao Hei seemed to be unable to resist. It made a strange cry again. Li Man looked over and saw that the woodcut giant lizard was like a war general level demon in front of the shadow demon tiger, being needed by it at will. Before Li Man was surprised, Tang Mao patted the elastic buttocks and said, "What is this? Come alive." Suddenly being taken advantage of again, Li Man stared at Tang Mao with an unhappy face. Seeing his serious eyes, she looked back with a trace of doubt. She saw countless giant dead lizards and lizard-headed monsters rushing towards here in the west. No, it's calling its companions. Par after Li Man exclaimed, she was slapped on the buttocks again. Li Man was instantly furious and said, "You bastard, do you really think I have no temper? If it weren't for countless lizard-headed monsters rushing over, Li Man would have wanted to let Tang Mao understand the strength of her little violent girl. It feels so good, I can't help it." Tang Mao smiled apologetically, but Li Man could see at a glance that this guy had no intention of admitting his mistake at all. What should I do? But she couldn't reason with Tang Mao at the moment. The most important thing was that her magic power had not yet recovered, and she couldn't even release higher level magic. Tang Mao was not afraid at all, but just a little surprised. So many lizards died in his hands, but he didn't expect that so many could still jump out. Besides fighting, can humans and demons still reason with each other? After responding, a blue-green constellation appeared under Tang Mao's feet. Frozen coffin. In an instant, the temperature around dropped rapidly, and even Tang Mao's feet began to freeze. Then, a blue-green light burst out at the lizard skull giants, and in an instant, the lizard skull giants in the front row began to turn into ice sculptures. However, freezing is not just that. After all, this is high-level magic. The power of ice attribute seemed to be continuous, extending backwards. Whether it was the giant lizard skull monster or the giant dead lizard, under the impact of this energy, they were all turned into ice sculptures, and then exploded with a crack. It was because Li Man was surprised many times today, otherwise she would have screamed again for the scene in front of her. This person is really strong to the point of abnormality. Crack. Crack. But even the high-level ice magic did not crush all the monsters. After all, the number of this group of lizards is too many. Damn, why are there so many? Tang Mao muttered, looking back at the shadow demon wolf who was still fighting with the giant lizard, and said, "Stupid cat, if you delay for a while, Dad will not give you food to eat at night." After speaking, Tang Mao turned around and bombarded the thunder, space, and ice elementary and intermediate magics continuously. Although the thunder magic can also be released, the speed is still a bit embarrassing. Therefore, Tang Mao did not release his high-level thunder magic. But even so, Li Man was full of admiration. Moreover, after seeing Tang Mao use the summoning system, ice system, and then the thunder system and space system, she was a little puzzled. Could it be that the pervert in front of her was not a high-level magician, but a super-level? However, she really couldn't agree with this. After all, it was already amazing that he could reach the level of a high-level magician at his age. Li Man no longer considered her current safety. Tang Mao's artillery bombardment could definitely buy time for the Shadow Demon Tiger to kill the Wukeh giant lizard. As long as the Wukeh giant lizard died, the lizard tribe would probably turn around and run away immediately. Tang Mao was sweating profusely. Although it was just a matter of skill for him to slaughter this group of lizard skull giant monsters. However, after receiving the call from their leader, this group of slave demons and general level demons were all fearless and fearless. And there were so many of them that they could hardly see the end of them. This was the biggest headache for him. Humans are not really weak. A walking magic turret like Tang Mao is enough to kill thousands of giant lizard skull monsters. But after killing more than 1,000, the giant lizard skull monsters are still endless, and his magic power will eventually be exhausted. At that time, it will be the countdown to death. Chapter 110, Killing the Giant Lizard. Although it is easy to kill these monsters, there is also an endless supply of residual souls to collect. However, when Tang Mao realized that more than half of his magic power was consumed, he still glanced at the Shadow Demon Tiger. It must be said that, although the Wu Shell Giant Lizard is not as strong as the Shadow Demon Tiger, it is a commander level demon after all. It is easy to defeat it, but it is not easy to kill it. Especially when the opponent has a strong desire to survive. Damn it. After feeling unhappy, Tang Mao turned around and looked at Li Man and then said, "How is your magic power recovery?" Hearing this, Li Man replied, "I should be able to release a high-level magic." Hearing this, Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly and said, "Then why don't you take action and watch the show here?" Li Man took a step forward and stood side by side with Tang Mao and then said, "I thought you didn't need my help." Tang Mao was speechless and said, "I didn't ask you to help me, you go to help Ziohei. But remember, don't use light magic." Li Man, who was about to release high-level light magic to show his strength, paused after hearing this. He said helplessly, "Except for light magic, I can hardly help it with anything. After all, she majored in light." Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly and then asked, "Can you hold on for a while? You don't want me to stop these monsters, do you?" Looking at the lizards rushing to charge not far away, Li Man asked with a surprised face. Tang Mao nodded and said, "You hold on for a while, I'll help Ziohei kill the giant lizard. Otherwise, we will all die." In this situation, only by killing the giant lizard will the lizard group disperse. Otherwise, the big lizard will keep howling, and these little brothers don't know how to write the word death. Li Man looked at the lizard group less than 100 meters away and was embarrassed. After all, she was not Tang Mao. Wave after wave of bombing can make the lizard group stay at a place of 100 meters, unable to get closer. Tang Mao also knew that it was a bit difficult for her, but if there was any other way at the moment, Tang Mao would not ask her for help. Li Man said weakly, "We can retreat strategically first." No. Tang Mao rejected her proposal without thinking. What a joke. If we can't kill this giant lizard this time, I'm afraid that next time, its little brother will not leave its side. It will be even more difficult to kill it at that time. When Tang Mao was puzzled, the long sleeping snow girl woke up. Moreover, it seemed that she felt that Tang Mao needed help and ran out of the contract space without permission. It seems that, because of the successful advancement, the little snow girl is now a little lolly, with the characteristics of she is even cuter than Ling Ling. Of course, Tang Mao didn't care whether she was cute or not. After looking at the floating snow girl, Tang Mao said, "Girl, can you block for daddy here?" "Oh," the little snow girl responded, and then turned her head to look at the group of lizards rushing over. Her little arms were raised instantly, and then extreme ice was sprayed out. This power was not inferior to Tang Mao's 0 degree at all. Seeing that the little snow girl could hold on, Tang Mao suddenly felt that the money for milk powder was worth it. The investment in the little snow girl was almost surpassing himself. At first, Tang Mao was still very distressed, but now it seems that everything is worth it. When the little snow girl was killing people everywhere, Tang Mao also came to the place where Xiao Hei and the Wukemonitor lizard were fighting. Looking at the Wukemonitor lizard, that was twice as big as the other, it was obviously covered with scars and even gave people a feeling of dying, but I didn't expect it to be able to hold on for so long. Xiao Hei was not hurt, but it was at its strongest at night. If it were night, even if the lizard was tenacious, it would only take a few moves to defeat the lizard in front of the enhanced Xiao Hei. Roar. Seeing Tang Mao coming, Xiao Hei growled with some guilt. After all, he had evolved so powerful, but he hadn't dealt with the lizard for half a day. Don't blame yourself, Dad is here to help you. After Tang Mao finished speaking, he looked at the lizard that wanted to run away and used space control magic. But the control of the commander by the intermediate magic only lasted for a few seconds. Fortunately, for Xiao Hei, these few seconds were enough. Under Xiao Hei's control, the lizard's idea of running away was obviously out of the question. Tang Mao was ready to go all out. Roar, roar, roar. Xiao Hei had been unable to take down the little lizard for a long time, and he was already angry. Now he roared to tear it apart, but his power could only be unleashed when night fell. During the day, it was just a little tiger with a stronger brain than the commander. Even though he was angry, Xiao Hei still couldn't kill it in a short time. At this time, Tang Mao had already drawn 7 star maps, which complemented each other, and presented a 360-degree 3-dimensional shape, making Tang Mao standing in it more arrogant and domineering. Lightning flashed randomly, dazzling. Lightning beam. As Tang Mao's constellation brilliance reached its peak, after a roar, all the lightning suddenly turned into a beam. There was only one beam, which was suddenly shot out, and flew hundreds of meters away in an instant. At the moment, when the violent thunder blasted past, Xiao Hei stepped on the Wuke giant lizard with 4 claws, and directly pulled away from it. Although the Wuke giant lizard was stepped on by 4 claws, this little damage was nothing, and it was still thinking about running away. However, when the thunder exploded, its entire lizard brain was stunned. Boom boom. High level magic can already cause absolute damage to the commander level demon. What's more, Tang Mao's bonus was devastating. The thunder killed the giant lizard without even giving it a chance to feel pain. Li Man, who was helping the snow girl to resist the lizard group, noticed the violent thunder power behind him and took a suspicious look. He saw the huge body of the giant lizard lying there motionless, while Tang Mao and the shadow demon tiger also came to help. Roar. Xiao Hei roared as he came. The powerful leader's pressure made those lizard-headed giant monsters who were rushing around without fear of death stop one after another. It was mainly because their leader was gone. Otherwise, how could they stop? After the shadow demon tiger released its momentum, the little snow girl also screamed in a similar way. However, although the little girl was powerful, she only looked like a human girl at the moment, which was not a threat to the lizard-headed giant monster group. But even so, the lizard group began to fade away. It's simple, the leader is gone, and I have to find a new boss. Chapter 111 Sister Hip's Enticement. Seeing the lizards retreat, Tang Mao and Li Man both breathed a sigh of relief. Li Man was relieved for being rescued, while Tang Mao was relieved for his own income. Not to mention the Wuke giant lizard in front of him. Even the Earth-type super quality spirit species here all need time to collect. Hey, Big Sister P, how about you let the military take this Wuke giant lizard? After being safe just now, the current discussion is naturally how to make a profit. Li Man directly ignored Tang Mao's address to her and did not care about the corpse of the Wuke giant lizard, but said helplessly, you are still a high-level thunder system, and you have to command a level summon beasts. Tang Mao nodded. He didn't intend to hide it. What's more, he just used high-level thunder magic. He summoned the awakened snow girl again. As long as Li Man is not blind, there is no possibility of hiding it. I'm talking to you about business, don't talk about it. Compared to whether it is high level or not, money is naturally more important at the moment. Especially the purpose of his coming here, isn't it just to make money? Unfortunately, this giant lizard didn't explode a spirit, but only a residual spirit. In addition, he has been here for a long time, and the harvest is enough to pay off the debt and the money for his daughter's milk powder. It's time to go back. Lee Man looked at Tang Mao with a heartache, and she didn't know what to say. Originally, she thought she was already a genius. Even if she couldn't compare with a pervert like Tang Mao, she was one in a million. But how can it be compared with a real pervert? Question mark. Then how come you have 4 series? After struggling for a while, Lee Man asked again. Para. Lee Man had just finished asking, and her big beautiful buttocks were hit by another malicious blow. Protecting her buttocks with both hands, facing Tang Mao, Lee Man was alert. Seeing her standing tall, Tang Mao glanced at something, and then said, "Why do you have so many questions? Can this giant lizard be cashed in? Damn one hooligan." Lee Man's face flushed, and she cursed with gritted teeth, and stamped her feet, and then humphed, "Take it, take it. But if you dare to molest me again, I won't give you money." Tang Mao immediately said, "Sister, don't get excited. Don't get excited." Seeing that she finally overwhelmed and intimidated, Lee Man's face rarely had a smile. After negotiating the price with Lee Man, Tang Mao found the nearby Earth-type spirit seed flowing marsh. This flow marsh should be the best among the Earth-type spirit seeds. When it is solid, it is comparable to hard rock and difficult to destroy. When it is soft, it can turn into quicksand swamps. It has strong viscosity and toxicity. Lee Man looked at Tang Mao, who had collected the spirit seeds, and said, "Why don't we buy them all for your military?" He didn't have any Earth-type spirit seeds, and for him, exchanging spirit seeds for money was the most practical. Lee Man looked at Tang Mao with a black line. When did their military become a recycling station? Question mark. However, this Earth spirit seed is a top-grade product. She believed that even her superiors would be willing to buy it. In the end, she nodded and agreed. Moreover, Tang Mao's hunting this time has reduced their workload a lot. At least it will take a few years for the giant lizards to buffer. After returning to Bai City, Tang Mao and Lee Man went to the military. They exchanged the corpse of the leader of the demon and the Earth spirit seed for money, and asked Lee Man to take them to a place to buy spirits and sell a wave of spirits. This time, the hunting of demons harvested a total of 260 million. Lee Man, who had been taking Tang Mao to find places to sell various precious things, finally learned his real name after he cashed in all his gains. Tang Mao, although you are very strong, it is still very dangerous to hunt demons without a clue. Do you want to join us? With your strength, your future is limitless. When leaving the military base, Lee Man received an order, which was to win over Tang Mao. Of course, whether she can succeed depends on her personal ability. Lee Man is also willing to win over Tang Mao. After all, it would be a pity for such a pervert not to contribute to the country. Join you? Tang Mao looked as if he was considering it, then smiled evilly and said, "It's not impossible, but you have to be my mistress." Tang Mao was just talking, but who knew that you actually nodded and agreed. "Okay. Fuck you." In response, Tang Mao subconsciously swore, but Lee Man was still carefree and smiled. "As long as you can contribute to the country, I don't care." Although Lee Man said it with a smile, Tang Mao could see that you was really not joking. She was serious. Ahem. Tang Mao paused and emphasized, "Sister, I'm talking about a mistress, a lover." Lee Man's mouth corners slightly raised, nodded and said word by word, "Well, I heard it clearly." At this time, Tang Mao should have turned around and left. After all, this kind of thing is too casual, right? But actions always speak louder than words. He put his hand around Lee Man's waist and said, "Okay, how about checking the goods first?" Lee Man pushed Tang Mao away and distanced herself from him, saying, "Go to hell. Didn't you promise?" Tang Mao said with some regret. He was pushed away before he even touched her. Lee Man spat softly, shameless. She pouted again and said with her chest puffed out, "I promised you, but you don't seem to have promised me yet." Well, seeing that the free-for-all failed, Tang Mao clasped his fists and said, "Then I'll come to you. When I think about it, the mountains and rivers remain unchanged, and the waters flow forever." After he finished speaking, he turned around and left without any regrets. Since he failed to get a free-for-all, he was afraid that his impulsive personality would not be able to withstand it if he didn't leave. Ahem. Looking at Tang Mao's back as he left, Lee Man said, "Bah, you rascal, goodbye." Unconsciously, autumn came quietly, and the fallen leaves everywhere, and the flying catkins all over the city, made the whole city of Hangzhou more poetic. After Tang Mao got off the plane, he went straight to the Lingayan Temple trial. The harvest in the wild this month was pretty good, and he was almost calm. But in the end, the silly girl Li Man came, and made him lose his mind. It must be that this girl wanted to win him over to join the military, otherwise he would have to be a scumbag. After all, that big beautiful buttocks is simply terrifying. Just looking at it makes him feel excited. Fortunately, he abides by the rules, otherwise, how can he run to the trial now? It would be difficult to walk. A good woman is a waist-breaking thing, and that's not just talk. Since he tried it, every time he saw Tang Yu, he felt very weak the next day. It's not that he doesn't know how to restrain himself, but in front of absolute enough things, he is just a defenseless weak chicken. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 112 Return to the City. Hangzhou in autumn, with extremely comfortable temperature and gentle autumn wind, does not seem like a sign of withering, but more like a gentle rendering of the entire color tone in front of a beautiful painting. Exquisite, slow. Tang Mao returned to Hangzhou first, because he missed Tang Yu. Of course, it could also be stimulated by Li Man, but only he knows this kind of thing. But after the trial, he got the news from Tang Zhang that Tang Yu was still on a mission. Moreover, she would not come back in the short term, so Tang Mao had to leave with a bit of frustration. He did not leave Hangzhou immediately, but returned to the place where the totem black snake was sealed. Speaking of which, since helping the black snake shed its skin before, it has been a long time since I last saw it. Before going to see the big snake, Tang Mao naturally did not forget to bring some snacks, such as seafood feasts and special barbecues. This was once a common hobby of him and the big snake. After not getting delicious nourishment for so long, this greedy snake is probably about to have a bird in its mouth, right? When Tang Mao just arrived at the sealed place, the mini black snake seemed to have already noticed him and came to Tang Mao's shoulder. Fuck. He hadn't even walked into the sealed sleeping place yet, but this thing had already noticed him. Tang Mao glanced around and said, "Stupid snake, you were sleeping. Why did you come out just after I came over?" Hiss. The black snake spit out its snake tongue and told Tang Mao that it smelled the fragrance of delicious food, so it came out by itself. After spitting out its snake tongue and responding, the black snake was ready to drill into the bag in Tang Mao's hand. Tang Mao hurriedly grabbed this little thing and said, "What are you in a hurry for? They are all yours. I'm not going to steal them. Take them out and eat them." If the stupid snake is allowed to go in like this, when it comes out, it will smell like delicious food all over its body. After all, it is his only loyal bodyguard at the moment. So at night, this thing will definitely be sick of him. If the whole house is filled with that greasy feeling, you can imagine what a disaster it will be when Tang Yu comes back. Hiss. After being caught by Tang Mao, the black snake did not think of struggling to break free, but just spit out its tongue and told Tang Mao, "I want to eat. I want to eat. I want to eat." You don't have to take the whole snake in to eat, right? Are you a tiger? If you keep doing this, I won't bring you any delicious food for a year. Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly, and he looked at the snake in his hand with contempt and said, "After all, he is also a top monarch. How can he be so useless?" Tang Mao talked to the black snake for a long time. Although the black snake was very impatient, it still endured it for the sake of food. It coiled in Tang Mao's hand and waited obediently for him to finish speaking before enjoying it. But because of this, Tang Mao, who was originally preparing to give a long speech, was thrown aside by him. If he doesn't cooperate, what's the point of teasing him? The liberated black snake was like a man who had been hungry for many years and fell into the country of women. After a full half an hour, the black snake finally enjoyed its delicious food. As expected, its entire body was covered with sauce. Before it could pounce on Tang Mao, it was frozen by a thick layer of ice crystals. It was only a moment, and the ice that had just condensed was instantly broken. Hiss. The black snake also successfully climbed onto Tang Mao's shoulder, spitting out its snake tongue and looking at Tang Mao as if to say, "Can you notify me before taking a cold shower?" Tang Mao felt frustrated. Even though he was a high level, he was still like an ant in front of the monarch's extremely powerful power. After spending an afternoon with the black snake, Tang Mao learned from the black snake that it seemed to have sensed a threatening aura recently. Moreover, the other party was still in this city. Tang Mao immediately thought of Yi Xingxia. I remember that she seemed to have 2 souls or something. Fortunately, the black snake had moved up its molting period by 1 year with the help of the Killing Jade, so Tang Mao was no longer worried about the ambitious plan against it. He only warned the black snake not to show up without his shouting. When Tang Mao left, the black snake obediently drilled into the seal in the lake. At this time, in a room of the trial, an old man with a goatee was sitting on a chair and looked at the man in front of him and said, "Dashing, are you sure that the python has shed its skin recently?" "That's right." The man named Dashing nodded and said with certainty, "Tang Zong and the others have already arranged for protection. As long as something happens, we can put all the responsibility on the python." "Very good. If it succeeds, I will definitely give you what you want." The old man with a goatee sneered. "Thank you, Mr. Congressman." On the other side, Tang Mao, who left Hangzhou, returned to the Magic City. This time, it must be said that it was a failure. None of the bullets that had been filled for a long time were released. Tang Mao was in a very bad mood. However, just when he was about to return to the apartment, that bad mood instantly dissipated. Speaking of which, it's time to taste the canary I raised, right? Moreover, if I remember correctly, today is a holiday. AI Tutu, that silly rabbit, might be partying in a bar right now. As for Munujiro, she should be practicing now, right? The more Tang Mao thought about it, the more excited he became. He didn't even take the elevator to go upstairs, but climbed up directly. His speed was even faster than the elevator. When he arrived at the door of the apartment, Tang Mao explored it and found that there was only one person inside. He opened the door gently and entered. When he entered the entrance, his eyes looked over thiefly. Munijio was sitting on the soft sofa. Her slender body sank into the softness. Her head tilted back slightly. Her long hair fell down along the back of the sofa, and her raised neck was white and smooth like a noble swan. Is she taking a rest? Tang Mao approached step by step and seemed to have heard the movement. Munijio looked over, and when she saw that it was Tang Mao, she just stared at him without saying a word, with complex emotions in her eyes. When Tang Mao saw Munijio wake up, he was too lazy to be cautious, and walked over to her and said, "My beloved, long time no see. Did you miss me?" Munijio, who was still in a daze, blushed instantly after hearing Tang Mao speak, because she thought it was another illusion. After all, she always behaved like this after Tang Mao disappeared again, after returning from the deserted city. But this time, she could actually speak. And where was this guy's hand? Chapter 113. The attack failed. Munijio wanted to push Tang Mao away, but this guy was like a dogskin plaster, and she couldn't get rid of him at all. In the end, she had to give up resistance. After all, it wasn't the first time. After thinking for a while, she interrogated again, "Where have you been during this time?" "I went to Dongting Lake to avenge my beloved concubine." Tang Mao greedily sucked the fragrance and squeezed beside Munijio and replied. "Oh." Munijio, who originally wanted to pretend to be calm, hurriedly said, "Don't," after feeling Tang Mao's different enthusiasm. Unfortunately, it was a rare opportunity. How could Tang Mao stop? After pecking at the soft lips, Tang Mao picked her up. With a serious face, he said, "Today, Munijio, I have you. No one can stop me." As he said that, Tang Mao was ready to pick up the panicked little sheep and walk to the second floor. Click. At the same time, the door at the entrance suddenly opened. Then the rabbit appeared before the person arrived. As AI Tutu walked in, Munijio said, "Tutu went to buy dinner." After AI Tutu walked in, he looked at Tang Mao, and their eyes met. Then there was a scream, which almost spread throughout the entire apartment. Tang Mao even forgot to put down Munijio. After the scream, AI22 said angrily, "Tangmao, you bastard. I was the first one you touched all over. Even if you want to cheat, you have to start with me first." Hearing this, Tangmao was completely dumbfounded, with only one sentence left in his heart: "Fuck it." Similarly, Mu Nigio was also confused, looking at AI22 stupidly. She really didn't know how AI22's brain was working. AI22 looked at the two people's silly looks, then looked at Mu Nigio, pouted and said pitifully, "Sister Mu, you are not going to abandon me with this stinky hooligan, are you? We have an agreement." Mu Nigio had come back to her senses at this time, and left Tangmao's arms. Her little face was flushed. After hearing AI22 speak, she seemed to think of what the two had said not long ago. Of course, that was before the deserted city. I still remember that AI22 asked her if she would like Tangmao or something. At that time, Mu Nigio shook her head and denied it without thinking, and even expressed to AI22 that she was just fulfilling the bet. She would leave here when the time came. At that time, AI22 just made an agreement with Mu Nigio without hope. That is, if one day, the person Mu Nigio likes is Tangmao, then she will be dragged to rebel together. Even if it is only physical. Mu Nigio should naturally refuse such boring things. However, that day she actually agreed, because she thought it was impossible. Moreover, she also saw that this silly rabbit was interested in Tangmao, and she just didn't want her to give it to him for nothing. Result: love is really unpredictable. Mu Nigio blushed as she looked at AI22 who was walking over, and stammered. She really didn't know what to do. At this time, a suitable arm suddenly took her into his arms. Similarly, AI22 on the other side was also pulled into his arms. The owner of this arm was naturally Tangmao. He hugged the two girls on each side and smiled slyly. "We are all family. Family. If there is anything unclear, let's go to the house to solve it." AI22 and Mu Nigio looked back at Tangmao in sync and said, "Get lost." Then, the two girls punched and kicked each other. After all these embarrassments were not caused by Tangmao, this playboy. Question mark? If you want to sleep with the same bed, wait for the next life. Although he was punched and kicked, Tangmao still perfectly grasped the size at all times. I have to say that Mu Nigio is the right size and soft enough. AI22 is a bit too much, but in terms of new tricks, she is better than all the girls. However, if the two are together, they can only watch, but there is no possibility of satisfying their cravings. Under Tangmao's shameless teasing, the two girls quickly chose to forget what happened just now. After the three of them drank a little wine, they went back to their rooms. As for whether they really forgot what happened just now, only God knows. After Tangmao returned to the room, he was happy and sad. The happy thing was that he not only got AI22's heart, but also Mu Nigio's heart. This and his buy one get one free plan. Half of it has been completed. The sad thing is that, even if the two girls are like sisters, it is almost impossible to be together. The saddest thing is that he has to chat with Wazzy's sister all night tonight. Maybe it was because of lack of sleep. Tangmao woke up at noon the next day. After leaving the house, he found that both Silly Rabbit and Mu Nigio were no longer in the apartment. Just when Tangmao was feeling a little puzzled, the sound of a door opening came from the entrance. Mu Nigio and AI22 walked in arm in arm, talking and laughing, but when they passed by Tangmao, they ignored him together. Tangmao didn't care about their ignoring him. He followed them and rummaged through the bags they brought back. After all, as long as he wasn't embarrassed, then others would be embarrassed. I say, do you two have to be so heartless and ungrateful that you don't even bring me some food? The bags were filled with nothing but clothes, and there was almost nothing that had anything to do with food. Hearing this, AI22 smiled and said, "Oh, haven't you eaten yet? Nonsense." Tangmao curled his lips and then said, "You didn't really bring me any food." The two women nodded at the same time. Tangmao covered his chest and said, "How cruel. When we were drinking yesterday, we were still in love with each other. After one night, you two want to starve me to death." Stinky hooligan shameless AI22 and Mu Nigio said at the same time. The tacit understanding between the two women is like a common enemy. Tangmao was a little puzzled. Who did he offend? It was his fault for being excellent? And shouldn't they fight for him? He really wanted to ask the two women, is it my fault that you like me? However, looking at the two women with unfriendly faces, Tang Mao chose to give up this boring question. It's just going out for a meal. It's not a tiring thing. Moreover, whether he wanted to push Munugio to see her roll her eyes, or discuss the new model with AI Tutu, there is no hope these days. Anyway, this time he was successfully disrupted by the big rabbit. Not only did he not feel Gio's tenderness, but no one even cared about his meal. After leaving the apartment, Tang Mao still grumbled unhappily, it's all the rabbit's fault. When you are alone with me, I will show you how I will deal with you. Chapter 114 Meeting Ding Yumian again. After leaving the apartment, Tang Mao returned to the campus he had not seen for a long time. To be honest, he didn't really want to come back. After all, this time he came back, Dean Zhao would have to collect the debt. After getting 150 million, it was a bit reluctant to give it away. However, the last bit of humanity told him that, although he could continue to be a dog, but what if Dean Zhao was needed in the future? You know, the other party is a big shot. After a while, he came to Dean Zhao's office. Dean Zhao sat at his desk as usual, and no one knew what he was busy with. You kid, you have been missing for more than a month. What are you doing this time? Dean Zhao asked with some confusion, after seeing Tang Mao, who had disappeared for a while, appear in front of him. After all, he is a student he focuses on. If he disappears at any time, he has to care about him. Moreover, the most important thing is that Tang Mao, this kid, still owes him a huge sum of money. I went to Dongting Lake and worked as a demon hunter for a while. I'm working to pay back the money. Tang Mao said, took out a card, and handed it to Dean Zhao. This is the 150 million I owe you. The shadow demon tiger is very strong. Thank you Dean Zhao. Dean Zhao took the other end of the card, and took it back with force, then nodded and said, you are lucky, you just happened to meet him. Then he said after realizing it, what did you just say? You went to Dongting Lake to hunt demons? Yes, you also know that I'm penniless. How can I get the money to pay back the debt so quickly if I don't go to hunt demons? Tang Mao shrugged. Dean Zhao looked around Tang Mao and then said, it seems that your trip this time is very smooth. Tang Mao didn't seem to be injured and he might have returned intact. In a place full of demons, he can do this. It must be said that he is very powerful. Fortunately, there are not many tough guys in Dongting Lake, so it went so smoothly. Dean Zhao shook his head and advised, although you came back safely this time, I still don't recommend you to go to a place full of demons alone. If you really have any difficulties, you can tell us, and the school will help you. Tang Mao nodded, and then said, Dean Zhao, you are indeed a good dean of Huaxia. I don't have any other difficulties now, but I'm short of money. Why don't you support me with the 150 million first? Upon hearing this, Dean Zhao stuffed the card into his pocket directly and then said seriously, young man, it's better to experience more. Seeing the speed at which the old man changed his face, which was almost surpassing himself, Tang Mao was full of contempt. After leaving Dean Zhao's office, Tang Mao met the girl who attracted her at the first sight again. Ding Yumian, who was walking over, was also paused when she saw Tang Mao. After that first encounter, Ding Yumian also had some little understanding of the man in front of him. It's just that he has rarely been in school, but he didn't expect that his luck is so good. It's so easy to meet someone you don't see often. I just suffered a loss at the hands of Dean Zhao. If I don't flirt with a pretty, gentle, and quiet girl, I'd be sorry for this encounter. Hi, beautiful girl, we meet again. Ding Yumian nodded after seeing that it was Tang Mao and said softly, I'm going to see Dean Zhao. What's the matter? Tang Mao thought for a moment, made way, and then said, then you go first. I'll wait for you here. Ah. Ding Yumian was stunned. At this time, shouldn't boys leave directly? Why did this guy say he would wait for her here? However, she was also very interested in Tang Mao, so it was not impossible to chat with her. Tang Mao waved her hand. Go, come out quickly. Last time, he didn't remember who the other party was, but later he slowly remembered her experience. It was another poor girl, and he would help her if he could. However, before helping, at least he had to see if it was appropriate. Ding Yumian was really fast, and it took only about 2 minutes for her to come out. Of course, she actually came here to report some small things, not because Tang Mao was waiting for her, so she came so quickly. After coming out, seeing Tang Mao was still here, Ding Yumian came over. Before she came over, Tang Mao turned around and asked, "Sister, tell me, are you secretly in love with me?" Ding Yumian was confused, a little confused. How did she judge from? How did she have a crush on him? She had searched some things about Tang Mao before, and it was just pure curiosity. But it was not related to secret love. I knew that you really had a crush on me. Tang Mao ignored her reaction, and said to himself, otherwise, why would you come out so quickly? Ding Yumian's unchanged little face showed a little helplessness, and explained, I was originally reporting some things to Dean Zhao. You think too much. No need to explain. As an excellent man, it is normal to be surrounded by beautiful women. At this time, Tang Mao was still immersed in his own world. Ding Yumian suddenly didn't want to talk to him anymore. After all, this guy was really shameless. Her calm heart showed signs of breaking down. And, as if thinking of the past, Ding Yumian felt depressed. Tang Mao beside her also felt the depression immediately, and immediately put away his mean look, and hurriedly said, hey, don't think about the past. It's not your fault, don't you know it yourself? Ding Yumian was startled by Tang Mao's call, and a cold sweat broke out on her back. Then she said apologetically, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. After saying that, Ding Yumian was a little confused again. Why was Tang Mao okay? She was in a very low mood just now. Tang Mao waved his hand and said, I know something about you. I just slipped my tongue. You. It's okay. I'm much better now. Ding Yumian interrupted with a slightly pale face. It was obvious that she was out of control just now, which made her a little scared. Let's go for a walk outside. Yeah. After the two of them left the office building and came to the playground of the campus, Ding Yumian briefly told Tang Mao about her affairs. After learning the whole story, Tang Mao persuaded, your ability is not only bad. Just think about it. If you can make good use of it, then even if you face hordes of demons, what is there to fear? Master it? Ding Yumian muttered and shook her head. She felt that this kind of thing was impossible. Moreover, if possible, Ding Yumian would rather be an ordinary person. Chapter 115 What is coming has finally come. But thinking of Tang Mao's innate soul field and his control over it, maybe it is not impossible? Because she herself is a victim, she knows clearly that Tang Mao is the same. People like them who are born with outstanding talents almost all have disadvantages. But Tang Mao can do it, maybe she can do it too? Ding Yumian asked immediately, your own thunder field and ice field, don't you have any backlash? Yes, I was just backlashed in the deserted city when I was an exchange student not long ago. But our situation is different. As long as you try to adjust your emotions and get out of the past, I think it should be easier to control than me. Ding Yumian looked at Tang Mao quietly and then said, you lied to me. Huh? Tang Mao paused and then said, how did I lie to you? Ding Yumian smiled slightly and said, don't forget, I'm still a spiritual system. Okay. Tang Mao shrugged and then said, I just want to find something to talk about with you. Since he was discovered, Tang Mao naturally chose to admit it generously. Controlling emotions? How could he not mention Ding Yumian? He himself might not be able to do it. You are really interesting. Ding Yumian covered her mouth and smiled. Do you want to have a relationship with someone as interesting as me? No. Hearing this, Ding Yumian shook her head and said, I've said it before, I also know something about you. The Pearl Goddess Munujuo, and you have a close relationship, right? Tang Mao was a little puzzled. The technological age is really a headache. If there is something, you can find out with a check. Seeing Tang Mao speechless, Ding Yumian laughed at himself. In fact, sometimes, I really want to enjoy the feeling of being in love, but this kind of thing is extremely luxurious for me. I have seen many classmates who are depressed because of breaking up. Of course, I have also seen them happy when they are in love. Are you afraid of being hurt, or are you afraid that certain emotions will hurt others? Looking at Ding Yumian's tired look, Tang Mao said, Ding Yumian nodded, and then she said, "It's so strange. I haven't talked so much with someone for a long time." From the beginning, she wanted to scum the other party, but now, Tang Mao has a kind of sympathy for Ding Yumian. Love is such a beautiful thing, but because of her talent, her sister can't even enjoy it. Tang Mao nodded and said, "Maybe we are both victims. Stinky sister, if you want to find someone to chat next time, you can come to me at any time. Brother can satisfy you in love. Let's stop here today. I'm going back." After chatting for a long time, he didn't touch his hand, which was a bit of a failure. But he didn't want to taint such a pure and flawless sister. In fact, there was no chance, otherwise. "Okay, then scum brother, I will trouble you in the future." Ding Yumian nodded and stood up. In fact, she really wanted to ask Tang Mao how he couldn't resist the infection of her emotions. But thinking that the other party had a space system at the intermediate level, his mental power must be very strong. After understanding the girl's suffering, Tang Mao came to the Qingshan hunting house. He had just arrived when he saw Lenking about to go out. "Big sister, where are you going in such a hurry?" Lenking seemed to have received some orders, and after seeing Tang Mao, she pulled him and said, "You are here, so let's go together. I'll tell you on the way." On the plane. After Lenking told about the Hangzhou incident, Tang Mao was stunned and said, "What did you say?" "Zhu Meng, the member of the trial meeting who advocates hidden dangers, wants to attack my snake?" Lenking nodded and said, "Yes, 2 people died because of poison corrosion." I don't know what Zhu Meng is thinking, but he determined that it was the totem snake. It seems that they have been preparing to take action in the next few days, and I have also received an order. Lenking also knows some totem things, but not much. Moreover, the snakes in Hangzhou are something she has always known about. The totem snakes have not done anything for so many years, so why did they hurt people now? There are many doubts in it. Tang Mao sneered, "Humph, let them try." He didn't want to deal with these people. However, it does not mean that he has no preparation. They want to fight for power and profit. Tang Mao does not care, and it has nothing to do with him. However, the other party actually came to mess with his younger brother because of power struggles, so he naturally cannot let the other party control him. Lenking saw Tang Mao like this and reminded him, "I received news that the black snake is now in the period of molting, which is when it is weakest. You'd better not mess around. Even if you are promoted to a high level, you will face a super level opponent." Tang Mao still looked confident. "Senior sister, you just stay away when the time comes." Although Lenking has not met Tang Mao a few times, he has heard a lot about him from Lingling. Tang Mao is not a reckless person. This look seems to make him look very confident. Lenking did not say anything else, because no matter how much he said, he might not be able to get the reason. After the 2 arrived in Hangzhou, Tang Mao did not go to the trial meeting with Lenking first. Lenking thought Tang Mao was going to run away with a snake. Come to think of it, as long as the black snake recovers its strength, Zhu Meng will not be able to provoke it. The strength of the monarch level demon, without 5 or 6 super class mages, there is almost no victory. Moreover, even if there are 5 or 6 super class mages, they can only deal with ordinary monarchs. When encountering a great monarch like the black snake, more than 10 super class mages may not be enough. After Tang Mao arrived not far from the black snake, he took out the totem bead and awakened it. After a moment, the mini black snake sat on Tang Mao's shoulder. After summoning the black snake, Tang Mao went back to the village again, and then went straight to the Hangzhou Magic Association building. When Tang Mao arrived, Tang Zhan came out. "Tang Mao, why did you bring the god with you?" Originally, Tang Zhan wanted to ask Tang Mao why he didn't take the black snake away and came here. However, after seeing the black snake on Tang Mao's shoulder, he was suddenly a little confused. "Why are you panicking? I dare to come here for my own reasons," Tang Mao said indifferently. Tang Zhan said anxiously, "The god is now approaching the molting period. It's okay that you are arrogant and presumptuous at ordinary times, but why don't you restrain yourself now? Don't you know that Zhu Meng is gathering people to deal with our totem god?" Tang Mao nodded. "I know. That's why I came. You are sensible." At this moment, a voice came from the building, and then a middle-aged man with a thick beard walked out. Chapter 116. Pressing forward. Hearing this, Tang Zong's face was in a panic, thinking that it was not good. Tang Mao carefully looked at the other party. No matter how he looked at it, the other party did not look like a cerebral palsy, right? Why did he let others manipulate him? Immediately, Tang Mao said shockingly, "Are you the brain-dead Zhu Meng?" After this, Tang Zong was stunned. Luo Mian, Lenking and some interns who followed Zhu Meng were also stunned. Zhu Meng heard this and glared at him. He said very toughly, "Boy, don't think that you can be so presumptuous in front of this congressman, just because you are talented. Believe it or not, I will destroy you now. You are nothing." Tang Mao retorted without any politeness. Zhu Meng was really going to explode. After all, he was a congressman. How could he not be angry when he was scolded like this? However, before he could get angry, he felt a terrifying sense of oppression coming over him. This oppression made him sweat coldly on his forehead. Tang Mao looked at Zhu Meng, who was stunned, and sneered again. "I said you are stupid, but you are not happy. If my snake really wants to hurt humans, the whole Hangzhou will be reduced to ruins in an instant. Do you want to try?" He was really a little angry, especially when he knew that he still wanted to rely on the power of the totem to protect the border. But his men are now going to kill the totem black snake. Today he has no intention of being tolerant. Zhu Meng wanted to suppress the inexplicable fear in his heart, but the oppression almost made him breathless. And it was at this time that he noticed that there was a small snake coiled on Tang Mao's shoulder. It seemed that this sense of oppression came from the other party. Zhu Meng knew the existence of the black snake a long time ago. He has always regarded it as the biggest hidden danger. However, there has never been a reason, and it is not an easy task, to eliminate a powerful monarch. But not long ago, he learned that 2 people died in Hangzhou, and they died near the place where the black snake was sealed. Of course, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that he learned from Luo Mian that the black snake has reached the molting period. It is the weakest time, and it is the best time to kill the snake at this moment. That's why today's incident happened. However, after the manpower was assembled, before going to find the black snake, the other party was actually brought by a young man. What bothered Zhu Meng the most was that the snake not only did not feel weak, but was still very strong. "What do you mean by you? Now I'll give you a chance. Call your boss and ask him if the totem can be killed. If there is no explanation for today's incident, the black snake will not get involved in Hangzhou in the future." Lenking, who was standing aside, looked at Tang Mao's arrogance and felt puzzled. Insulting the parliamentarians was a provocation to authority. Although she also knew that the Tang family had worshipped the totem for generations, it was not a wise move to offend a parliamentarian because of this. Luo Mian was secretly happy in his heart, and his mood was so good. In this way, it means that both the black snake and the Tang family have gone to the opposite side of the country. With the help of Zhu Meng, he destroyed them. Although Zhu Meng's leadership ability was involved, the rewards he received were definitely not small. Luo Mian was a little curious. Why did Zhu Meng talk to a young boy? He seemed a little lacking in confidence. Luo Mian and Lenking didn't know that Zhu Meng was bearing all the oppressive power of the black snake at this time. He didn't kneel directly, which was already very remarkable. He still wanted him to be arrogant. Could he be arrogant? Zhu Meng wanted to refuse, but he could clearly feel the terrifying power in the body of the black snake. It seemed to be better than the monarch outside Hangzhou. Just as Tang Mao said just now, if the black snake really wanted to hurt humans, I'm afraid that the whole Hangzhou would disappear in an instant. Ding-ling-ling. However, before he could call the phone to ask for instructions, he received a notification sound of an incoming call. Hearing the sound, Luo Mian behind him flashed a trace of cunning conspiracy in his eyes. But because it was a flash, no one noticed it. After Zhu Meng hung up the phone, he looked at Tang Mao angrily and said, "My men sent me news that hundreds of people in Hangzhou have had an outbreak of plague. You still dare to say that this snake is fine?" Tang Mao's mouth twitched slightly. He was a little puzzled. How did this brainless thing get to be a senator? So when there is something wrong, he always blames the black snake. In fact, it is not Zhu Meng's fault for suspecting the black snake. The problem is that this sudden plague happened to coincide with the black snake's molting period, so he thought it was the cause of the incident. Of course, ZHU Meng still thought that the black snake was in the molting period. Do you dare to bet? If this plague has nothing to do with the black snake, your life belongs to me. If this plague is related to the black snake, you can do whatever you want with my snake. After Tang Mao finished speaking, the black snake spit out its snake tongue and hissed to express its dissatisfaction. It seemed to be asking Tang Mao again, as a tool snake, does it have the right to decide its own future? Did it make a bet with others without even discussing it? Unfortunately, Tang Mao ignored him and stared at ZHU Meng. Seeing Tang Mao's confident look, ZHU Meng felt a little weak in his heart. Because he felt that he might be too hostile to the black snake, so he was led by the nose this time. He immediately turned around and looked at Luo Mian. Counselor Luo Mian still had an unchanged expression, as if all this had nothing to do with him. In his opinion, the black snake had not yet shed its skin, so he chose to keep a low profile and not to confront Tang. After all, no one knew whether this beast that was about to shed its skin really had no fighting power. What if it fought with him? He would still enjoy endless wealth and glory in his future. Seeing that ZHU Meng seemed to have some reaction, it was not important to Tang Mao. Moreover, he knew very well what caused the plague in Hangzhou, and before arriving, Tang Mao had asked Tang Zhang to send people to find antidotes, but now was not the time to treat it. Tang Mao urged again, do you dare? Seeing that ZHU Meng didn't say anything for a long time, Luo Mian looked at him, helplessly. He had to say, ZHU Meng, why don't you say anything? Since this kid is betting with you, then just bet. Hasn't this python always been the biggest hidden danger in Hangzhou? He actually knew very well that this plague had nothing to do with the black snake. But if ZHU Meng died in Tang Mao's hands, then the Tang family in Hangzhou would really be finished. So, after a discussion, Luo Mian chose to stand up. Tang Zhang and the people of the Tang family's totem guardian clan were all stunned when they heard this. Because, hasn't Luo Mian always stood on their side? Why did he suddenly rebel and become a dog? Chapter 117 Don't come to beg me. Without waiting for ZHU Meng to respond, Tang Mao directly scolded, who do you think you are? Did I ask you to speak? He had no patience for this instigator. After all, he always wanted to kill this kind of beast who only had power in his eyes. Luo Mian's face turned green when he heard this. Although this is not the trial council, he is also a member of parliament. There are not many people in the whole country who dare to talk to him like this. Because he didn't know the relationship between Zhu and Snake and being insulted, Luo Mian drew a star map and prepared to use a mid-level magic to solve Tang Mao. Even the primary magic released by the super level magician is extremely powerful, not to mention the mid-level magic. Tang Zhang was afraid that Tang Mao would make a mistake. If Zhu and Snake got angry at that time, it would definitely be a disaster. So he hurriedly said, Luo Mian, what are you doing? Stop it. ZHU Meng was also confused. He didn't dare to do it himself. How could this person be so ignorant of life and death? HMPH, you young Tang family members are lawless. ZHU Meng and I are both counselors. Shouldn't this kid be executed for insulting us like this? Luo Mian said coldly. Of course, he had no intention of stopping his actions. However, just when he was about to attack Tang Mao, the black snake suddenly became huge. After the black snake became huge, huge clouds and mist appeared in the sky. This was what Tang Mao asked the black snake to do, in order not to cause panic. Above the black snake, Tang Mao said coldly, do you really think no one knows what you Luo Mian did? As Tang Mao finished speaking, dashing in the mouth of the black snake was spat out. Tang Mao went back to the village before to catch this ignorant thing. On the way here, he also confessed everything. He didn't want to explain, but Tang Mao knew everything and told it one by one, which seemed to be more comprehensive than what he knew. Although he didn't know what the situation was, Dasheng still chose to confess and be lenient. With his accusation and the power of the black snake, Tang Mao naturally ignored ZHU Meng and Luo Mian. Luo Mian's face changed after hearing what Tang Mao said and seeing Dasheng. He no longer hid his murderous intent, but before he could make a move, Zuansh gave ZHU Meng a look, and the oppressive feeling he had just given him was all pressed on his body. This powerful pressure made him feel that his life seemed to be as worthless as those fools, like grass. Tang Zhang and Len King were worried that Tang Mao would make a mistake, but now it seems that this is not the case. Tell me about your peace with this beast, who is worse than pigs and dogs, otherwise, I will send you to a place full of demons. Tang Mao said coldly at dashing on top of Zuansh's head. Dashing had already been trembling with fear, and when he saw Luoman standing there, unable to move, he immediately told him all the pie transactions between him and Luoman. Not only that, he even gave out some of Luoman's lackeys. Luoman was already panicking when Dashing was spit out. However, he wanted to take action, but he was being watched closely, as if the black snake would kill him immediately as soon as he made a move. After listening to his confession, and after he also gave out all his other subordinates, Luoman was panicking from the bottom of his heart. After everything was revealed, Tang Mao looked at ZHU Meng again, and said in a calm voice, ZHU Meng, do you understand now? Do you still want to kill the snake? ZHU Meng was now really like a dumb person eating coptis, with no way to express his grievances. At the same time, he was also very angry. In his opinion, the black snake was still an unknown disaster. For a while, the two of them were at a standstill. Tang Zhang did not want to offend ZHU Meng. After all, his status was not low, so he came out to persuade him as a peacemaker. Seeing that ZHU Meng was still acting like he was right and the black snake was a hidden danger, Tang Mao said calmly, it seems that you don't think you are wrong. If that's the case, you should protect Hang Zhao by yourself. I hope you fight until the last moment. Tang Mao was not in a hurry to make this old guy admit his mistakes. There would be a time for him to beg them. Although ZHU Meng was very arrogant, he was not a joker in Hang Zhao. After hearing what Tang Mao said, he hurriedly asked, what do you mean? Don't worry, Zuansh, as the guardian of Hang Zhao, will naturally not harm the people of Hang Zhao. Some things still need to be made clear. If they are misunderstood, it will always be very troublesome. After all, he is not the best now. Tang Mao pointed at Luoman and said, but the plague used by this beast is the favorite of a large group of white devil eagles in the west ridge of the western fortress. After saying that, Tang Mao looked at ZHU Meng and said in a low voice, when a large number of demons come, you must not ask me to ask Zuansh for help, because even if you ask me, it will be useless. After Tang Mao finished speaking, he took Zuansh and left here directly. Although he wanted to teach ZHU Meng a lesson, he was a congressman after all. Teaching him a lesson would be tantamount to provoking the national prestige. This was inconsistent with the principles of Tang Mao, who still wanted to live a down-to-earth life. However, just because an ambitious congressman wanted to go higher, he used Zuansh as a stepping stone. This kind of thing was intolerable to him. After all, this time it was Zuansh. If he waited until the future, when he was useful and valued, others threatened him with Tang Gaiu. This was a question of attitude, so no matter what Len King and Tang Zhang said, Tang Mao had no intention of paying attention. It was not that he didn't want Zuansh to contribute, nor was he willing to see Hang Zhao in trouble. But sometimes, you can't contribute and still be treated as a sinner, right? Zuansh has been with him for so many years, like a family member. Apart from Tang Gaiu, it is almost the closest to Tang Mao. And just after Zuansh and Tang Mao left, a man in a military uniform walked quickly. He saluted to the counselor ZHU Meng. ZHU Meng always had a bad premonition in his heart, and the man whispered a message in his ear. ZHU Meng heard it, and immediately glared at him. What did you say? Seeing ZHU Meng suddenly like this, everyone turned their eyes to him. Things are just as Tang Mao said. Where does ZHU Meng need to hide it? He said truthfully, we have just received news from the fortress that a large group of white magic eagles have emerged from the west ridge of the fortress west of Hang Zhao city. They are hungry, crazy, and reckless. No matter what kind of magic bombardment we launch, they have no intention of returning to their nests. At this moment, they are collectively flying towards this city. Moreover, our sky eagles have become stubborn, irritable, and even hostile to humans. According to our understanding, it is because there are monarch level creatures attacking. As soon as he finished speaking, ZHU Meng looked at Luo Mian with a bad face. At this moment, he really wanted to kill him. At the same time, thinking of what Tang Mao said when he left, he turned to look at Tang Zong and said, "Can you let that kid come back? Hang Zhao really needs help now." Hearing this, Tang Zong was also embarrassed. Looking at ZHU Meng, he sighed. This kid Tang Mao has never taken me seriously. Judging from the look on his face just now, there should be only one person in the world who can persuade him. Who is that person? Ask him to help quickly. This is related to the safety of the entire Hangzhou city. ZHU Meng no longer cared about his face and lowered his posture to the lowest level. Chapter 118, helping someone in need is better than adding icing on the cake. Tang Zong was also puzzled. If it was someone else, it would be better, but Tang Mao had been at odds with him since childhood, and even now he was half cold. However, after seeing ZHU Meng's anxious state, he had to say, "That's Tang Yu. Tang Yu." ZHU Meng also had some impression in his mind. After mumbling, he said, "Then let her persuade him. Besides, didn't you say that the Black Snake is a guardian of Hangzhou? This time it can repel the Sky Demon Eagle clan. If I cause trouble to him again in the future, I will be struck by lightning." ZHU Meng was already a bit of a rogue at this moment, but he still had human nature after all. Without the power of flight, they could not stop the Sky Demon Eagle clan at all. The residents in Hangzhou suddenly became the enemy's granary. Now he could only try every means to intercept them. Tang Zong's mouth twitched slightly, and he pointed at him angrily and said, ZHU Meng, when did you become so shameless?" ZHU Meng didn't care about his face anymore. After handing this task to Tang Zhang, he sealed Luo Mian's strength, ordered people to keep a close watch on him, and then rushed to the fortress. As for the plague, there is already a recipe for relief, so there is no need to worry. Looking at ZHU Meng leaving, Tang Zhang had a headache. Although he was very unhappy with ZHU Meng's appearance just now, the situation was urgent, and he could only choose to settle the score later. He glanced at the assistant judge Tangson beside him and said, "Where is Tang Yu now?" Hearing this, Tangson immediately responded, "According to the news sent back by the judge, it is said that she has just completed her mission and arrived in Hangzhou. You go pick him up and then return to the village." Tang Zong nodded. As long as Tang Yu comes back, everything will not be so bad. Immediately, Tang Zong decided to persuade Tang Mao in person. Len King and others followed ZHU Meng to meet the enemy. The monarch level demons, ZHU Meng, several judges, and superclass magicians guarding the fortress can't deal with them at all. After all, there are not a few commanders under the monarch level. Half an hour later, Tang Zong came to the place where the Black Snake was sealed, and sure enough, he saw Tang Mao and the Black Snake here. When Tang Zong came here, he actually thought of a lot of excuses, but he always felt a little suspenseful. When he finally arrived, he said directly, "Tang Mao, do you really not care about the lives of the people in Hangzhou? Old man, the stupid snake has always been regarded as the biggest hidden danger by ZHU Meng. I think you know it. In this case, why bother to add icing on the cake?" Tang Mao turned around and said, "But if he is severely taught a lesson by the Silver Dome Lord, it will be a different story to help him in times of trouble. At that time, not only will ZHU Meng no longer dare to regard the big guy as a hidden danger, but the residents of the entire Hangzhou city will worship it as a god." From the beginning, Tang Mao did not intend to fight ZHU Meng to the end. The reason why he left was just to make him understand one thing. Facing the massive attack of the Sky Demon Eagle clan, without the deterrence of this totem beast that he has always regarded as a hidden danger, he is nothing. Tang Zong was stunned, and then he realized that Tang Mao was not going to rush. But Tang Zong was a little puzzled and asked, "Then how did you know Luo Mian's plan, and how did you find a way to rescue so quickly?" Tang Mao shrugged and said perfunctorily, "Not long ago, when I was hunting monsters outside Hangzhou City, I was injured by a poisonous rat. The eagle red grass I asked you to collect before, its leaf juice is the key to treatment. It's just that I didn't care at first, and when I knew that someone died because of it, and it was contagious, plus the black snake was targeted, and that big man came here secretly to see if it was molting, I guessed it. Tang Zhan looked at Tang Mao with a feeling of looking at him with new eyes after 3 days of separation. In his heart, this kid is not a person who likes to use his brain. Unexpectedly, this time it was a coincidence. Tang Zhan paused and said, "How did you know that the sky demon eagles would attack Hang Zhao?" Tang Mao was full of oh my god. He didn't like this old man for no reason. He almost had 100,000 whys and whys. That's because the sky demon eagles feed on those poisonous rats. And this plague is related to poisonous rats. Do you understand what I said? Although the plague has begun to be cured, the smell it exudes is still a delicacy for the sky demon eagles. This is why they still come here. Tang Zhan finally understood it, and then said, "What about the gods melting? Why do you have so many questions?" Tang Mao was a little unhappy. He was not an automatic answering machine. Why don't you just ask a few questions? Why don't you keep asking? Tang Zhan was suddenly scolded, and blew his beard and glared. But thinking that Tang Mao dared to scold Zhu Meng, he didn't bother to care. After all, there is no point in being fussy. Tang Zhan said worriedly, "When are you going to let the gods take action? You have to know that, if you are late, there may be great sacrifices." Tang Mao did not respond, but said, "Why don't you go and help? Why are you staying here?" Tang Zhan was unhappy for a while. After all, he was quite old. He was Tang Yu's uncle and the president of the trial. Didn't this kid know how to give him some face? Well, after seeing Tang Mao continue to tease the black snake, Tang Zhan had to turn around and leave. In fact, he also agreed with Tang Mao's idea. If he sent charcoal in the snow, it could be said that all future troubles were solved at one time. Moreover, once the black snake protected all the residents of Hangzhou, it would no longer be their Tang family that protected it. In the future, even the big bosses at the top of the position would have no right to target the black snake. But when Tang Zhan thought of the battlefield over there, he always had a bodhisattva heart. But when he met Tang Mao, who was so stubborn and had sufficient reasons, he really had no choice. And just when he was leaving, he received a call from Tang Yu. Obviously, Tang Yu has been taken back. Tang Zhan didn't say anything nonsense. He just asked her to go back and persuade Tang Mao to let Zhu and Snake help. Hang Zhao now really needs Zhu and Snake's help. On the way back, Tang Yu also got a general idea from Tang San. She didn't like Zhu Meng, the old stubborn man. Just like Tang Mao, for her, besides Tang Mao and Tang Zhang, Zhu and Snake is her family, like a father. It's just that Tang Mao led her astray. Otherwise, Zhu and Snake is really like a father, always protecting her. But she can also distinguish the priorities of things. Now Hang Zhao is in danger, and personal unhappiness can only be put aside for the time being. After agreeing to Tang Zhang, Tang Yu rushed to the sealed land at full speed. 10,000 collections, not even the expected subscriptions were reached. I really don't know what to say. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 119 Air Combat. After Tang Zhan left, Tang Mao also left with Zhu and Shi. It was not because he was moved by Tang Zhang, but because Zhu and Shi told Tang Mao that Tang Yu was back. At this time, Tang Yu came here as soon as she came back, so there was no need to think about what she was going to do. He could refuse anyone, but he really couldn't refuse Tang Yu because of this matter. Since he knew he couldn't do it, and Zhu and Shi also noticed that the enemy attack was approaching, Tang Mao decided to set out to drive away the invaders. Just when he and Zhu and Shi approached, a warning light shone stunningly from the west of the city and fiercely wiped the sky not far away, which was so eye-catching and shocking. The sunset was also in that direction, showing a dark red color. The two miserable colors intertwined together, as if they were foreshadowing the terrible things that would happen next. After the warning light was launched, the ordinary residents of the entire Hangzhou city fell into panic. Along the way, he saw people from all over the country scrambling to escape, which forced him to put aside his dissatisfaction with ZHU Meng and those ambitious people, and headed towards the fortress at full speed with the Black Snake. At the fortress, the military mage forced himself to stand on the long tower of the western defense line, facing the creatures in the air. Most of the primary and intermediate mages could hardly play a role, but in fact, the main combat power of the entire western fortress was these huge numbers of primary and intermediate mages. At this moment, the western fortress could only send out the elites of the elites to stand on the sparse towers. The western fortress may not be called a defense line. The towers are the real sentinels that prevent the White Magic Eagle Legion from invading the land. There are sparse figures of some magicians floating in the sky above the western fortress. Without the Sky Eagle, even some high-level mages cannot enter the front battlefield. After all, not all mages have magic and magic tools that can fly. The number of magic eagles is too many, and even high-level mages are likely to fall in such a battle. After all, the numbers on both sides were too unequal. However, these mages knew that they would lose the battle, but none of them retreated, because behind this line of defense, there were too many powerless people. If there was no stopping them, the entire city of Hangzhou would really become a purgatory on Earth. At the West Fortress, ZHU Meng looked at the 10 white four-clawed magic eagles that had emerged and floated on the clouds, like 10 clouds that had separated from the sea of clouds. And in the cold sky above these 10 commander-level four-clawed magic eagles, a giant eagle with silver feathers was surrounded by them. The silver giant eagle was high above, lazily not taking the human territory into consideration. The 10 four-clawed magic eagles escorting it could easily clear all obstacles in front of it, not to mention the tens of thousands of people under these 10 four-clawed magic eagles. Looking at the Silver Dome Lord and the 10 commander-level four-clawed magic eagles, ZHU Meng said angrily, "Did that kid ignore the innocent people in Hangzhou City just because of a misjudgment?" Although he knew that this was not the time to quarrel, Tang Zong couldn't help but say, "Member ZHU Meng, you should know that half a day ago, you have been wanting to kill the god worshipped by my clan, right? Besides, didn't you say that Hangzhou can still have good weather without the blessing of gods? Don't you think it's a bit shameful to say such things now?" ZHU Meng's face turned blue and purple when he heard it, and he seemed to be a little angry, but he was speechless. After all, as Tang Zong said, he thought the Black Snake was a hidden danger before, and it was not important. However, when Tang Mao arrived with the Black Snake and oppressed him so much that he couldn't move at all, he already regretted it. But as a member of a distinguished status, even if he was wrong, he couldn't bow to a young boy, right? But who would have thought that things would develop to this point? At this moment, ZHU Meng still had the arrogance of a bullshit. After personally experiencing the power of the Black Snake and being reprimanded by the superiors, he really wanted to get the help of the other party. But now, he didn't have time to beg for anything, let alone leave here. The best he could do was to fight to the death. To deal with this Silver Dome Master, we must first get rid of its 10 guards. ZHU Meng's voice was very resolute, with the intention of fighting to the death. In that case, I'm afraid we won't have much strength to deal with this Silver Dome Master. The few of us together can only drag down the pace of this Silver Dome Master. The military commander here said helplessly. Don't worry about so much, kill a few of them first, so as not to let them think that our territory is a place where they can come whenever they want. After ZHU Meng took off the noble counselor's robe on his body, the whole person exuded a burst of hostility. As soon as the voice fell, ZHU Meng had already taken the lead in flapping the blazing feathers behind him and turned into a bright red light to kill the 10 four-clawed demon eagles. Seeing ZHU Meng leading the charge, the other superclass mages naturally did not hesitate and rushed up together. Similarly, the war at the fortress also started instantly. Although the plague has been cured and Luoman has been captured, in order to disperse the white magic eagles that are rushing towards them, war is still needed. Boom boom, the air war is about to break out. After the white magic eagles began to attack, they were like white raindrops, densely falling on the edge of the city. They can fly, and many magicians who have joined the battle with resources are helpless against them. They watch them plunder and kill in this city. At this time, Tang Mao stepped on the Black Snake and appeared from the city of Hangzhou. Those who were guarding here were full of fear for the huge python that suddenly appeared. Even this fear far exceeded the number of white magic eagles, that exceeded 10,000. After the black snake arrived, it opened its mouth and spit out green poisonous mist at the white magic eagles in the sky. The poisonous mist was so pervasive that anyone who inhaled it into their chest would turn into a stiff corpse in less than a few seconds. The poison of the totem black snake had a strong instant killing effect on the white magic eagles. These white demons in the sky fell down in groups and smashed into the streets. In just a moment, the white magic eagles that had just crossed the line and rushed in were turned into corpses. The poisonous mist of the black snake was lingering in the sky, but it did not fall on the streets at all. The people who had just been hiding were now full of shock. Is it protecting us? After one person spoke, many people were full of doubts. The black snake did not stay here for long. After dealing with the group of white magic eagles that had just broken in, it flew towards the west. Chapter 120 Air Combat. Tang Mao, who was standing on top of the black snake, was not doing nothing. This wave of residual souls was another huge income. After clearing the sky demon eagles in Hangzhou city, the black snake took him to the sky outside the west. The Silver Dome Lord in the high place seemed to have noticed something. He looked down at the totem black snake rushing towards the ground and cried angrily, as if he was threatened. The cry echoed sharply over the city. At this time, Zhu Meng, Tang Zhang and others were still fighting with the commander level 4 clawed magic eagle. Although they were all superclass mages, the battle had just begun. It was not an easy task to easily solve these commanders without destructive superclass magic. After all, not everyone was Tang Mao. After Zhu Meng successfully killed a commander level 4 clawed magic eagle, he wondered, what happened to that beast? After the Silver Dome Lord roared, several surviving 4 clawed magic eagles retreated one after another. When Zhu Meng and others were about to chase, the Silver Dome Lord suddenly made a move. I don't know what it was thinking. It actually gathered its little brother back and rushed over by itself. Although its body is extremely huge, its speed is not slow. After seeing this scene, Zhu Meng loudly reminded everyone to be careful, and then he faced the challenge head on, with thunder all over his body. He was not acting, but really wanted to fight to the death. While rushing towards the Silver Dome Lord, 7 constellations were completed, and the stars were densely packed and gorgeous like a brilliant Milky Way. The star track connected the star points in the sky together, depicting the most beautiful star map. The star map complemented each other and was symmetrical in all directions, constructing a constellation full of mysterious power. The constellations were connected again, and the majestic and magnificent star palace suddenly took shape. The deep purple thunder danced wildly within a radius of hundreds of meters around Counselor Zhu Meng. As the entire star palace bloomed with purple that filled the sky, a shocking lightning halberd was pulled out of the void by Counselor Zhu Meng. The lightning halberd swung fiercely, becoming extremely large during the flight. This is the superclass lightning magic thundering punishment. One after another, the lightning halberd streaked across 9 long rays of light. The rays flew towards the feather blade field, where the Silver Dome Lord was, forming a thunder punishment cage composed of 9 sky-high lightning pillars, trying to bind the Silver Dome Lord. However, as the electric net fell, the Silver Dome Lord roared again, and the Sky Demon Eagles that had just gathered all flew towards this destructive magic. Crackle. Whether it was a servant level or a general level Sky Demon Eagle, as long as it touched the electric net, it would be killed instantly. But even so, they still charged. Among the demons, the fate of the weak is so tragic. However, no one had the heart to admire these demons who were going to die at this time, because the silver feathers on the Silver Dome Master stood up, and suddenly thousands of silver lights fiercely shuttled through the black curtain, densely hitting Zhu Meng and other superclass mages. These rays have extremely strong penetrating power, and ordinary defenses can't resist them at all. In just a moment, several people were injured, but this is not over yet. The Silver Dome Master seemed to be determined to deal with them. After flapping his wings, he appeared in front of several people. With a sound of whoosh, the wings like a mountain hit several people. At that moment, they each used their defensive magic tools and their own means of saving their lives. Bang! Although several people saved their lives, this time, their combat power was instantly reduced. Zhu Meng looked at the Silver Dome Master, who treated them like grass with an unwilling look. He was not afraid of death, but if he fell, the countless people in the entire Hangzhou city behind him would be afraid. Just when Zhu Meng was about to close his eyes in despair, a huge body suddenly emerged, and a strong sense of oppression came over instantly. It can be clearly felt that this pressure is many times greater than that of the Silver Dome Lord. It can be said that the two monarchs are not at the same level at all. Zhu Meng felt this familiar oppression and was slightly stunned. When he opened his eyes, he saw Tang Mao looking at him with a playful look. Although Tang Mao's expression was very mean, Zhu Meng was not angry at all, but felt like crying with joy. The Silver Dome Lord was different from Zhu Meng's happiness. It was a little panicked at this moment. Without him, the breath of the Black Snake made him feel fear. Although they were both monarchs, they were suppressed in terms of bloodline and level. How could it not panic? After a roar, its subordinates rushed towards the Black Snake like moths to a flame. But just as it has a domain, the Black Snake also has a domain. The powerful poisonous fog instantly turned into corpses falling like meteorites when the White Magic Eagle Legion rushed over. But even so, the White Magic Eagles were still charging. Similarly, the Commander level 4 Cloud Magic Eagles also rushed to the Black Snake domain. However, in front of the monarch, what is the difference between commanders, generals, and slave level demons? It's nothing more than that they can resist for a while, but even if they rush in, they are still entertained by Tang Mao's thunder. A large number of residual souls were constantly collected. Suddenly, Tang Mao wanted to take the Black Snake to Daunting Lake for a sweep. This is simply a great harvest. In this moment, he has obtained 5 slave spirits and a general level spirit. As for those commanders, although they did not explode their spirits, the discount of their corpses is also a considerable income. The totem Black Snake was full of contempt for the stupid order of the Silver Dome Master, and spit out the snake letter provocatively. In response to the provocation of the totem Black Snake, the Silver Dome Lord realized that doing so would only send his people to their deaths. He ordered the White Magic Eagles to retreat and began to manipulate the storm like feathers around his body to fly towards the totem Black Snake. Tang Mao, who had originally reaped a lot of rewards, saw that the White Magic Eagles and several 4 Cloud Magic Eagles had retreated, and he angrily cursed the Black Snake idiot. However, at this time, the Silver Dome Lord had already rushed over, and the Black Snake naturally had no time to respond to Tang Mao. With a flip of its huge body, the huge tail slapped the Silver Dome Lord's face. It directly slapped the angry Silver Dome Lord to the ground. Of course, this was not in the city, but outside of Zeiss. Then the Black Snake chased out. As for Tang Mao, who was on the head of the Black Snake, although he felt very excited, he was also very nervous. Not to mention the Black Snake, even the Silver Dome Lord gave him a very strong and terrifying sense of oppression. That is, he knew that the Black Snake could keep him safe. Otherwise, even if he knew that he could collect a large number of residual souls, he would not step on the Black Snake to act stupid. Chapter 121 Repel. After the Silver Dome Lord flew back up to the sky from the ground, it cried out angrily, and an extremely terrifying destructive sound wave gushed out of its mouth. Under the bombardment of the sound wave, cracks appeared on the hard snake scales under the power of the sonic boom. Although Tang Mao, who was standing on the head of the Black Snake, was protected, he could still feel the terrifying killing power. However, the Black Snake ignored it and swung its huge snake tail again. Bang! It swept across the sonic boom area and even swept across the open eagle beak of the Silver Dome Lord. After the Silver Dome Lord was slapped again, the whole bird was in trouble. It was obviously not important for the monarch level demons to fight against those destructive magics. More importantly, they still relied on physical fighting. But the birdman was obviously at a disadvantage. After the first encounter, it was the one who was beaten. Zhu Meng, who had retreated to the fortress, looked at the Black Snake and the Silver Dome Master in the air, and sighed slightly. It seems that I was really wrong. Then he looked at Tang Zhang again and said sincerely, I have always been thinking about solving the Black Snake. I'm sorry. Tang Zhang still chose to accept Zhu Meng's apology. It was because, no matter how he targeted the Black Snake, He took the lead in fighting against the Silver Dome Master, which proved that he was really worried about humans, not for his own ambitions. After getting Tang Zong's forgiveness, Zhu Meng looked up at the sky again and sighed. If there was no help from the Black Snake today, I'm afraid Hang Zhao would have been bloodbathed. Tang Zong paused, and then said, "We accept your apology." Tang Mao said some excessive words before, "I hope you don't mind." Zhu Meng's mouth twitched slightly, and it was obviously something he didn't want to think about. After all, he, a dignified counselor, was scolded by a young boy. He didn't want to mention it at all. However, he naturally couldn't offend Tang's side at the moment. He shook his head and waved his hands and said, "It's okay. It's okay." At the same time, the Silver Dome Lord had given up on continuing the attack. There was no way. He was always suppressed and beaten. Even if there were thousands of his brothers, they couldn't even get through the poisonous fog of the Black Snake. In this case, what else could he do if he didn't retreat? But it wanted to retreat, and the Black Snake naturally couldn't let it leave like this. Suddenly, its figure became illusory. Tang Mao stood on the head of the Black Snake. It was obvious that he could feel that he was moving quickly. The next moment, he and the Black Snake suddenly appeared above the Silver Dome Lord. It drew a huge circle around a center, and the trajectory left a blue-black outline connected from beginning to end. The scope of the outline was enough to cover the area of 1 kilometer around the Silver Dome Lord. The marks, traces, and ancient symbols on the scales of the totem Black Snake in the outline were secretly distributed throughout the entire circular outline surface. From a distance, it looked like a sky-covering Bhagavad pattern filled with countless tablets and curses, covering the head of the Silver Dome Lord. Finally, this energy suddenly materialized and turned into huge stone tablets. Swish, swish, swish. After turning into stone tablets, they all hit the Silver Dome Lord at the same time. The tablets hit the back of the Silver Dome Lord accurately one by one, like a flat round meteorite accidentally slipped from the heavenly palace to the human world, which could cause the power of destroying the world. The Silver Dome Lord was pressed to the ground, and the tablet was applied with a strong earth magic. The size itself was amazing, and the gravity field of the Earth system could make a tablet comparable to the weight of several mountains stacked together. Boom boom, the Earth sank under the heavy burden and a circular abyss appeared. The abyss was full of the blood of the Silver Dome Lord. At this time, the Silver Dome Lord crawled out in a mess. Its head, back, and wings were all covered with blood. It can be said that it suffered an extreme blow, both mentally and physically. The Silver Dome Lord has been completely convinced. After being hit hard this time, it didn't even have the courage to retaliate. Then it spread its wings and flew high, flying to the west. The totem Black Snake had no intention of chasing. Tang Mao also asked if it could kill the Silver Dome Lord, but the answer was no. The Black Snake said that it was not difficult to defeat the opponent, but it was not so easy to kill him. Once you reach the realm of the monarch, you will fight to the death, but you are extremely fierce. After learning that there was no way to kill the Silver Dome Lord, Tang Mao asked the Black Snake to kill more Sky Demon Eagles, especially the 8-clawed Demon Eagles at the command level. These are all money. Hearing this, the Black Snake refused with a snake letter. Of course, it also has its reasons. If it pursues it relentlessly, it is likely to attract a crazy counterattack from the Sky Demon Eagle. In that case, the humans in Hangzhou City will probably suffer considerable damage. After all, the opponent is a flying monster, and the current defense force of Hangzhou City, especially the Air Force, is extremely damaged. As the White Demon Eagle Legion and the Silver Dome Lord faded from the horizon, the panic alert of the city was finally lifted. The people in the safe isolation barrier returned to their own city, and the defense of the West Fortress returned to normal. After the crisis was resolved, the Black Snake left a loud roar and left with Tang Mao, heading back to the sealed land of the village. After Tang Mao and the Black Snake disappeared, the military commander of the West Fortress said that they had received news from the southeastern north. It was said that the 3 demon tribes had all evacuated dozens of miles away with their tails between their legs. After learning about this, Zhu Meng told the people of the Guardian clan that he would never list the Black Snake as a hidden danger again. Of course, he knew that even if he wanted to attack the Black Snake, the people of Hangzhou would not agree. Not to mention, whether he could win or not, the anger of the people alone was enough for him to bear. The Hangzhou incident passed quickly. Except for the death of several people in the initial plague, everything was immediately remedied afterwards. Tang Mao also made great contributions, and even Zhu Meng wanted to win him over. However, Tang Mao directly refused. A few days later, Zhu Meng thought that Tang Mao was still angry with him, and he personally found Tang Mao and apologized. Tang Mao accepted his apology, but still refused to join his camp. But as the saying goes, even if the deal is not successful, the righteousness remains. Tang Mao directly extorted Zhu Meng for the corpses of the Commander Level 4 Clawed Demon Eagles and the credit for saving the plague people. This time, in addition to harvesting some spirit essences and residual spirits, he also harvested an additional 300 million. As for the credit, Tang Mao gave it all to Zhu Meng, which was also an apology for scolding him before. Tang Mao received 300 million yuan in income, and he was very generous to the Black Snake, buying it 3,000 yuan worth of food as a reward. When Tang Yu found out about this, she despised him for 3 days. Chapter 120 to Tang Yu's question. 1 week after the incident in Hangzhou, in the familiar West Lake scenic area, next to a familiar big tree, Tang Mao and Tang Yu were recalling some happy things. At first, Tang Yu refused, but with Tang Mao's soft and hard persuasion, she finally agreed. Rustle. After half an hour, a strange sound came out of the forest. After a while, Tang Mao, who seemed to have explored for a while, came out with Tang Yu. After all, it was broad daylight, and they couldn't stay here for too long. In addition, Tang Yu wanted Tang Mao to accompany her to relax, so after recalling for a while, the two came out. This time, he didn't make trouble all the time. Instead, he really took Tang Yu to play in the West Lake. Regarding Tang Mao's abnormal situation, Tang Yu wondered, did you do something wrong? Tang Mao was thinking about Munigio's matter, so he felt a little guilty towards Tang Yu. Sure enough, it's not easy to be a warm man. But, he was just thinking about it, and he didn't expect Tang Yu to ask directly. After a pause, Tang Mao hurriedly shook her head and denied, how could I have done anything wrong? No. Tang Yu looked at Tang Mao with a scrutinizing look. Obviously, she didn't believe what Tang Mao said at all. Tang Mao was puzzled, but she still said, you don't trust me. Hearing this, Tang Yu gave Tang Mao a coquettish roll of the eyes. Then she said, don't give me that. This coquettish expression was simply amazing. The feeling of just being released was as if nothing had happened. This sexiness and charm is probably what many young girls envy the most, and cannot imitate through any heavy makeup. You have been taking advantage of me in various ways, since I was a child. Don't I know your tricks? Tang Mao was overwhelmed. When did his future wife become so smart? She was doing something. But thinking about it carefully, it seems that he didn't cheat, right? Whether it was Munigio, Muningsu, or AI Tutu, he just touched them. Thinking of this, Tang Mao said confidently, but, I really didn't do anything. Really? Tang Yu stopped, and turned back to look at Tang Mao. Really? Being stared at by this pair of charming eyes, I always feel a little panic, but at this time, I have to grit my teeth and persevere. Tang Yu turned around thoughtfully, and after a moment, she always felt something was wrong. Finally, she stopped again, and looked back at Tang Mao somewhere. When she noticed Tang Yu's gaze, Tang Mao subconsciously covered his hands. This was completely instinctive. It's not that Tang Yu doesn't trust Tang Mao, but he is really too abnormal today. After hearing what Tang Yu said, although his self-esteem was hit, he also figured out why he was suspected. What nonsense. I'll let you go now, just because I didn't accompany you for a good walk last time. How dare you question me? Knowing the reason, Tang Mao was even more confident, and casually pulled Tang Yu's soft body into his arms. After a period of dissatisfied kneading, Tang Yu instantly wilted. Hey, stop making trouble. I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. The itchy feeling made her unable to resist at all, so she could only collapse in Tang Mao's arms, and choose to beg for mercy. Tang Mao didn't stop, and continued to discipline Tang Yu. Do you dare to question me? At this moment, she was like the ignorant little girl back then, being bullied by Tang Mao, and pretending to be wrong. Bo Tang Mao pecked Tang Yu lightly with satisfaction, and then looked at her pair of charming eyes full of desire, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Tang Mao hugged her like a princess and said, "I'll take you somewhere." "Where?" Tang Yu asked in confusion. Hearing this, Tang Yu's cheeks flushed, and then she raised her head and snorted at Tang Mao's fragrance with a bit of arrogance. "No, let's go back in the evening. You said you would accompany me to visit Westlake." However, her proposal was not responded to. At this time, Tang Mao had already started to run towards Westlake with her. As for visiting Westlake, it was obviously forgotten. That night, the moon was dark and the wind was high. That night, Tang Yu's apartment was dark. The next day, there was only a note left by Tang Mao. After taking a look, it was just some of Tang Yu's concerns and a message that she was going on a mission. After reading the note, Tang Mao lay down again, muttering, "Women are so scary." It was not until the afternoon that Tang Mao set off to return to the Magic City. After arriving at the apartment at night, even though he saw Munugio's graceful figure, he didn't have any other thoughts and just lay down on the soft sofa. AI Tutor came over with some curiosity, looked at Tang Mao and said, "You bastard, where have you been? Why are you so listless?" Munugio was also a little curious. Usually when Tang Mao came back, his eyes would be glued to the two of them. But today, he just lay down without any distractions in his eyes. Hearing this, Tang Mao leaned up on the sofa, glanced at AI Tutu, then looked at Munugio, curled his lips and said, "Oh, woman." Chapter 123. My name is Emofan. The morning was bright and beautiful. The fallen leaves from last night still covered the path to school and gently rippled on the small lake, creating a unique autumn atmosphere. It was not even 8 o'clock yet, and the streets were already full of busy figures. After waking up, I was full of energy. The two girls who didn't pay much attention to me yesterday followed me happily today and occasionally touched me unintentionally, and they were also happy. AI Tutu pouted and glanced at Tang Mao beside him with contempt, and then trotted to Munugio's side. System U, look at him. Yesterday he said he wanted to become a monk, but today he is trying to take advantage of us." Hearing this, Munugio's already rosy face became even redder. After turning back to glare at Tang Mao, he patted AI Tutu's mouth lightly. "What did you say?" He was careless. Who took advantage of him? Oh, AI Tutu heard this and said with a playful look on his face, "Is that so? When he went out this morning, he touched your left buttocks accidentally?" Munugio heard this and walked forward with her head down, without any intention of responding. AI Tutu looked at Munugio's shy appearance and laughed heartlessly. At the same time, Tang Mao, who came behind her, patted her hard. AI Tutu's laughter stopped instantly. He turned back to glare at Tang Mao in dissatisfaction. That look, as if he was going to pounce on her and bite her. Tang Mao not only did not retreat, but also stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. As for his eyes, he was naturally staring at a certain place. AI Tutu, who was just a little fierce, turned around and ran away in an instant. She finally understood that this guy was determined to eat her. Now, taking advantage of others doesn't care about the occasion. Seeing the big rabbit trotting towards Munugio, the two sisters linked their arms and chatted quietly. Tang Mao looked at the backs of the two girls, especially the twisting and turning ones. He licked his lips and thought, "This butt is really nice." Unfortunately, the bullets have not been replenished yet, so he can only think about it. A moment later, on campus. System U, it's that Linting guy Zhao Shuming's lackey. AI Tutu walked on the campus avenue and pointed at a man who appeared in front of him. "Oh, Miss AI has changed her follower again. Next time, at least change him to someone who is fair-skinned and extremely handsome. Can Miss be sure that he will be useful if she finds someone like this? Or is this a new shield you hired? If he is a shield, he should be quite capable. Don't let him be knocked down by our boss Zhao Shuming like last time. He looks good but is useless." A male student who was dressed up as a handsome young man came over. He was not afraid of the title of student AI Tutu as the little witch, and spoke in an impudent tone. Tang Mao paused after hearing this, and then looked at the trash who just belittled him and said, "Trash, what did you just say?" The guy called Trash didn't seem to be afraid at all. He looked up at Tang Mao with a sneer on his face. I said you were a follower. Did it annoy you? Then let me guess which family you are the chief disciple of. Bang. Before the trash could finish, Tang Mao was already in front of him and then punched him and made him bleed. Tang Mao is now a high level mage, and because of the demon system, even if he doesn't use magic, the power of this punch is still explosive. It's only because the other party is a mid-level mage, and he didn't use his full strength, that the other party just had a nosebleed. If it was a beginner mage, this punch would probably make the other party fly out directly. It seems that he didn't expect that the other party would actually dare to do it. Looking at Tang Mao, he said blankly, You dare to hit me? Pa. In response, he was slapped again. This time, the trash was slapped to the ground. Glancing at the guy who had fainted, Tang Mao said with disdain, You are just a small fry, why would I hit you? After saying that, he walked towards the main campus. Stop. The man with the surname Dongfang came out and checked his little brother. Then he looked at Tang Mao and said, Boy, who are you? You hit him so hard, don't you know this is a school? Yes, I know. Tang Mao nodded, but he didn't stop or look back. After all, who is he? Dan Fangming ignored him like this, and he was immediately unhappy. Staring at Tang Mao's back, he said, Arrogant guy, have the guts to tell me your name. My name is Emofan. You are welcome to come to me anytime, if you don't agree. Tang Mao had no interest in this kind of small fry. After all, they really couldn't stand a beating. AI Tutu, who was following behind him, almost stepped on his high heels crookedly when he heard this. Mu Nigio's lips twitched slightly, and she was a little speechless. At the same time, she felt sad for Emofan. After all, it was on campus. If it wasn't a challenge match, a magic fight would be immediately expelled. Therefore, Dan Fangming just wrote down the name Emofan and dragged the scum away. You know, he is now a trainee member of the Judgment Council. If he doesn't deal with such an arrogant person, how can he survive in the future? After the three of them entered the main campus, Mu Nigio said, Aren't you causing trouble for Emofan? Tang Mao said disapprovingly, I'm giving him a chance to practice. He should thank me. AI Tutu said with disdain, Aren't you afraid that the other party will cause trouble for you? I dare to support you too, and I'm afraid of others causing trouble. Hearing this, the two women were speechless for a moment. There was really no way to respond to this, and only Tang Mao, who was shameless, could say it. Then the two of them separated and went to their own campuses. Tang Mao walked towards the lay school campus. Actually, he was a student here, but he hadn't been here for a long time, so it was hard to avoid disappointment. When Tang Mao entered the lay school, many people even mistook him for a new student. It was only when Tang Mao was talking nonsense with teachers Kan Kun and Sun Yun that some old students recognized him. Look, that's the number one in our lay school. It is said that he has rarely come to school since he won the first place. Is there no one challenging him? The students who recognized Tang Mao began to talk about it. As the word spread, it was full of all kinds of bragging stories about Tang Mao. Listening to the words of admiration from the younger students, Tang Mao finally experienced the feeling of being a celebrity. He was not a low-key person, but he was too poor to pretend. However, during this trip to Hangzhou, he suddenly became very proud. With the income of 300 million, he bought 2 copies of Galaxy Vein, and the remaining money was used to buy milk powder for his daughter, which could support her for at least a month. He decided to enjoy life during this rare free time, and try to break through the high-level space system. As long as the space system breaks through the middle level, his 2 new systems can also be awakened. Speaking of it, this damp physique is also good and bad coexisting at the high level, but when it comes to the super level, when it comes to forbidden spells, magic awakening is extremely difficult. Fortunately, his current magic system is the same as the forbidden spell, otherwise, it would be a real loss. Chapter 124 Emofan's Request. Enjoying the admiration of the juniors and the fascination of the juniors, he quietly watched the competition below, which was like a child's play. Unconsciously, Tang Mao found that he was also a big shot. Next game, Zhu Zhaoting, number 123, challenges Zhu Yan, number 110. While he was quietly pretending to be a big shot, another competition was completed below. After hearing the name, Tang Mao looked over. Although he was watching the game before, his peripheral vision was always on the juniors of Leon. He had no interest in the game at all. After Kian Kun finished his announcement, he came over and saw Tang Mao looking at Zhu Zhaoting in the field and asked in confusion, "Zhaotang, do you know this Zhu Zhaoting?" It's rare that this guy seemed to be talking to him just now, but he was actually looking at the juniors. It means that he knew this guy was perverted, otherwise Kian Kun would have kicked him down long ago. Now seeing him staring at a young man, Kian Kun didn't think about those tops and bottoms. He was just a little curious. Could it be that the two of them have a relationship? You know, Tang Mao is almost never in school. We know each other. I saved him twice. Tang Mao responded. Zhu Zhaoting also saw Tang Mao and bowed slightly. This made the guy he challenged stunned. However, Zhu Zhaoting's bow expressed respect. If he didn't do it, he would be a little flattered. He had also heard about Tang Mao. Such a big man is worth making friends with. Besides, his opponent had already licked him openly, so he had nothing to be embarrassed about. Just like that, Tang Mao sat there and watched the two people express respect to him. Zhu Zhaoting bowed slightly to him, which Tang Mao could understand. After all, he had saved him twice. But what about this Zhu Yan? Similarly, Zhu Zhaoting looked at Zhu Yan with a confused face. What are you looking at me for? Do you want to fight or not? Zhu Yan was stared at all the time, and he always felt a little uncomfortable, and finally said a little unhappy. Well, it's nothing. I just didn't expect that Senior Zhu was also rescued by Senior Tang. Zhu Zhaoting paused and said. Hearing this, Zhu Yan was stunned. So they were expressing gratitude? And he was really a dog licker? Question mark? Damn it, Kit, I'm going to do it. Zhu Yan felt unhappy. It was like a burst of explosion. Tang Mao had almost figured out what was going on. Below, the fight had already started. Zhu Zhaoting's thunder system seemed to have reached the intermediate level 2, and the same was true for the wind system. Relying solely on the resources of the school to reach this level, his talent was not bad. This Zhu Zhaoting has good talent. It is said that several noble families have recruited him, but he said that he has not joined any noble family. Before, many people thought that he was waiting for his value to increase. But once his girlfriend said that Zhu Zhaoting was not like that, it was just because he owed someone's life. Before repaying, he would not choose to join any force. Kian Kun looked at Zhu Zhaoting and the other person who were still fighting on the field and said in a calm voice. In fact, when Tang Mao said saved him twice just now, Kian Kun understood it. I see. Tang Mao nodded and responded with some emotion in his heart. Although he has good talent, if there is no big force behind him to support him, the high level threshold is probably something he cannot cross. Although his idea is very good, Tang Mao can't find a way to provide him with resources just because he wants to repay him. Investment needs to be rewarded. There is no shortage of people like Zhu Zhaoting in this world. Moreover, the most important thing is that he is still poor now. So why think about other things? The following game lasted for dozens of rounds and ended. Those who are related to the protagonist will die if they don't have 3 episodes. They still have some luck and strength. It can be seen that this competition proves that he is not weak. After the challenge, Tang Mao stayed in Liyuan for a whole half day. It can be regarded as brushing class hours. After all, he is still a student. Of course, he is not interested in it, but Dean Zhao asked him to stay in school for a while. Otherwise, the government would not let him become a stable member of the team. Becoming an internal member can get a stable income from resources. If you are a substitute, there is no resource supply, so under the threat of money, Tang Mao still succumbed. This is also the main reason why he came to school today. However, you can practice everywhere, whether in school or in the apartment. More than 10 days later, another boring day passed, and Tang Mao received a call from Emo-fan. As soon as the call was connected, Emo-fan's helpless voice came over. Brother, are you cheating me? Huh? Tang Mao paused and asked in confusion. Why did I cheat you? When did it happen? A guy named Dong Fangming has come to my door. Tang Mao was not affected at all by the 3 words Dong Fangming. However, Tang Mao still asked. I forgot. How did you defeat him? Hearing what Tang Mao asked, Emo Fan's very floating voice came over. How is it possible? Just that kind of trash. How can it be my opponent? Why are you calling me when nothing is wrong? Since you have won, what are you talking to me about? It's not like you have been defeated and need me to help. Tang Mao finished speaking and was about to hang up the phone. Emo Fan hurriedly said, no, don't worry, big brother. I have something else to talk to you about. As early as when Emo Fan said that, Tang Mao knew that this guy must not be a threat. After all, with 4 systems, he is already invincible in the middle level. What's the matter? Emo Fan hurriedly said, it's that I want to contract a pet, and now I have news about it. But the place is a bit dangerous. Big brother, can you come to help? Okay, when are we leaving? Tang Mao thought about it, and agreed to it, because he had nothing to do anyway. And following this guy, although there is a possibility of committing suicide, it will not be empty-handed. Emo Fan was relieved to see that Tang Mao agreed, and happily responded. 3 days later, by the way, the place we are going to is Dunhuang. Tang Mao didn't care, and hung up the phone, and left the school. After all, now that he has a strong trump card, he can be said to be full of confidence. In fact, Tang Mao was originally planning to apply for the opportunity to practice in the 3-step tower in the past few days, to break through the space barrier. With 2 galaxy veins in the 3-step tower, impacting the high level space should not be a problem with his current magic power. However, the best way to improve strength is to fight. Chapter 125 Heading to Dunhuang. A moment later, Tang Mao arrived at the Qingshan hunting house. Coming here, of course, is to ask if there is a bounty to be accepted. Ling Ling shook her head in boredom and said, no, there is a bounty for a superclass mage. As she said that, Ling Ling squinted at Tang Mao and said disdainfully, you are still too weak. If you were a superclass mage, we wouldn't have to worry about not having a bounty. Hearing this, Tang Mao stretched out his hand and pinched Ling Ling's little face. Dissatisfied, he said, how dare you say such a thing? Ling Ling slapped Tang Mao's hand away, pouted her little mouth with some dissatisfaction, and said, don't touch me, you stinky hooligan, weird uncle, la litter control. This was confronted. Tang Mao was stunned. Even facing this sharp-tongued little girl, he found that he still had no resistance? Question mark? Forget it, brother, don't remember the villain's fault. I won't bother with you. Tang Mao said generously with a wave of his hand. By the way, I'm going out for a few days, and will be back soon. If there is a bounty, I'll take it, and come back to do it. Hearing this, Ling Ling's eyes lit up. Dunhuang is a very famous ancient demon land in China. It is home to creatures with the purest bloodline and the longest history. The brilliance of domestic magic civilization is also recorded in that sand wall and broken city. Mage hunters always go there to look for ancient civilizations. If they are lucky, they can dig up a lot of remaining treasures and magic tools. She is extremely interested in that place. Although she knows it is very dangerous, she is very interested in Tang Mao, a pervert, going there. Ling Ling came to Tang Mao and immediately hugged Tang Mao's arm and said, I want to go too. No, it's too dangerous. You can't go. What if something happens? When Tang Mao heard that this little lolly with a combat power of 5 was going, he refused without thinking. Although this girl is very smart, she is a little girl with a combat power of -5 after all. She doesn't even have the ability to resist when she encounters a siege by demons, so how can Tang Mao take her with him? Moreover, the burning plain we are going to this time is located in the east of the Dunhuang area. It is a desert with loess everywhere. Needless to say, the heat and scorching wind there are naturally known to many foreign hunters. Tang Mao was still reluctant to let the little girl try this kind of suffering. There was a sense of loss in Ling Ling's lively eyes. However, giving up is obviously not her forte. Having known Tang Mao for such a long time, she still knows him very well. Ling Ling turned and came to Tang Mao, holding Tang Mao's big hand with her little hand, and said coquettishly, just take me there brother Mao. His Tang Mao has never been able to resist this kind of tone. This was discovered by the little girl by chance, but who would have thought that the little girl would act coquettishly every time she disagreed with herself. But no matter how he thought about it, Tang Mao still felt that he couldn't let Ling Ling go to such a tormenting place. But before he could shake his head, Ling Ling said, "If I follow you, you can save a lot of brains. Think it through. Besides, it's not like I haven't taken risks before, so I still have the ability to protect myself." Well, Tang Mao was quite moved after hearing Ling Ling's words. After all, he never liked to do things that require brain power. "Then you have to listen to me when the time comes, and don't run around." Before Tang Mao finished talking, Ling Ling waved her hand and interrupted. Okay, I'm not a child anymore. Do I need you to tell me these?" Although Tang Mao was very unhappy, it seemed that Ling Ling really needed guidance in many things. If he wanted to teach others how to do things, he was really not qualified. In the next few days, Ling Ling started to prepare directly. It seemed that this was also her first time to go to the plateau desert. She had a special fascination with the vast world, where the sky and the earth were the same color and the yellow sand filled the sky. And with Ling Ling taking care of all this, Tang Mao's life remained the same. Every day, she teased Munugio and AI22. On the second night, Ling Ling sent a message to Tang Mao saying that it would be best to find a spiritual mage, otherwise, the journey to the north corner of Zoyan would be difficult. After learning about this, Tang Mao told Demofan that spiritual mages were hard to find for others, but this guy could really find one. Demofan didn't want his sister to take risks, but he really needed a contract pet. On the third day, Yu Xingxia still came. Tang Mao didn't know what the situation was. This time, the people who went to the dangerous Dunhuang were Tang Mao and Ling Ling, Zhao Manan and his cousin, Yu Xingxia and Demofan. Of course, there was also Zhang Xiaohao who became a soldier. That's right, Zhang Xiaohao became a soldier after all, although Yu didn't die. However, the incident in Bo City gave him a big blow, and he and Yu both chose to become military mages. It's just that he was the only one who came here, and Yu didn't have time to come to help, because he was on a mission. The 7 of them prepared their own equipment according to Ling Ling's request. They were a group of young people with a lot of enthusiasm. They went to Dunhuang as soon as they said they would. Zhao Manan was actually a little distrustful of Ling Ling's request. After all, what does such a little kid know? However, after hearing Tang Mao's introduction of various things, he decisively chose to believe. After all, he didn't think that Tang Mao was bragging about a little girl. Arriving in Dunhuang, you can immediately feel the special charm of this yellow land that can open your mind. Looking around, the vast yellow sand spreads to the far end of the horizon. The mounds in the yellow sand are slightly brown and stacked up, some high and some low. After arriving, they also bought the locally domesticated wind camels. Although they are all mages except Ling Ling, not everyone can react immediately when they encounter danger. With the camels, they gradually approach the famous burning plain. There are many creatures living in the desert Gobi. The rich earth and fire element make a large number of elemental monsters appear here. In addition, the local overlord Sand Tiger Demon clan is distributed everywhere. The general hunting magician team has to be very alert after crossing the boundary line. However, after a whole day of traveling, they did not encounter any danger or trouble, and it was a smooth journey. Although Tang Mao has a strong mental power, he dare not take it lightly. After all, the little black snake he encountered in Dongting Lake is still fresh in his memory. There are so many kinds of monsters in this world. Who knows if there will be similar monsters in this desert? The journey went smoothly. Gradually, after a day, they arrived at the area where the Shuang River is located. The Shuang River is a plateau stream that has been dry for many years. After years of erosion by strong winds, the entire river has become extremely wide. Even on the map, the Shuang River looks like a long earth-colored dragon lying on the land of Dunhuang. Its length is almost across half of Gansu, and its narrowest place is probably more than 10 kilometers. Please subscribe, guys. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.